Okay. It shows that I am currently live, but I don't see my image. Hold on. Uh-oh. Can people hear and see me? Let me see if I'm going to go on my live. Hold on. I'm going to go through YouTube and see if I can see myself. Because right now it shows I only have one live viewer and I can't see anything. Can hear, but you cannot see me. Okay. Let me try something. All right. All right. This is a problem. I can see myself. All right. This is a problem. Yeah, I can hear myself too. But all right. We got 7 people in here. You can't see me. I am in my Hognose room. And so anyway, I just was at a bunch of, you can only see Dave. Yeah, that's the only thing I see too. Hold on. I'm going to click some buttons. Clicking some buttons. I see Noah Bounds is in here. I see the layout screen. What the hell am I doing wrong? Hey, Avery. It says stop cam, but I can't see myself. Oh, shit. I'm going to call, you're going to call 1 second. Let me see. All right, I'm going to start talking about Hognose anyway, because we just got a picture of Dave, and I don't want to keep people waiting. But so I just did really like 5 reptile shows. Make sure the reptile, like, yeah, it doesn't matter if the lens is clean or not. Yeah, I should make sure in case I get it working. I don't know why it's not working, though. And anyway, so I did these shows. I was at Sacramento. Last show I did was Salt Lake. So Salt Lake, Sacramento. And then before that was Phoenix. And overall, these shows have been going pretty good. And anyway, I think I'm going to get the camera here working in a bit. There it is. Camera's working now. So everything is smooth sailing from here on out. And the shows have been good. You know, a lot of people from the Hognose community have been coming out to the those shows that are local. And okay, and then one thing before I get completely started, I definitely want to give a shout out to sponsors like Rami, the Reptile Super Shows, some of the best. Yeah, right there. You got the Reptile Super Show is one of my favorite shows to do. It's in Pomona. It's an amazing show. Lots of people there, big crowd, lots of animals. The next one is in June, and I've been calling it, I don't know what he calls it, but I'm calling it the Quad because there's 4 events going on simultaneously. And there's one for birds, aquatics, plants, reptiles. And then more recently coming up is the Reptile Talks. Reptile Talks is next weekend. So we got a bunch of good people speaking here. I'm going to be one of the people speaking. Sunday, very last. That was a really good move for it with Jay because I can be a bit drawn out and neurotic, and I don't even really have that many plans, so I could end up talking for 2 hours. There's the speakers list there. Armin's going to be there from Herp Time. We got Scott Stahl, really renowned exotic veterinarian. A bunch of other great people. Phil Goss. I think there's going to be some other members from US ARC speaking as well, and that's in Anaheim. And there's the schedule there. You got the Icebreaker Friday. I'll be there all Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm going to be talking a lot about polygenics, just Hognose in general. This is going to be a really good talk. Just not just because, like, it's not because I'm there. There's a bunch of good people, but I think it's going to be really good just because I'm going to be unveiling some cool stuff that I've been working with. I'm going to be talking about polygenics, and more importantly, I'm going to be there talking with a bunch of other Hognose people from the community. And we got US ARC. US ARC is going to be actually that whole thing for Reptile Talks. All that money is going to US ARC. So that's the cool thing about the Reptile Talks. Reptile show, reptile greeting, get together, symposium, all in one, and all the proceeds are going to US ARC. And Rami and Jay Summers are putting on the Reptile Talks. Phil Goss is going to be there. Pretty much one of the faces of US ARC. There's a bunch of other great people in US ARC. We got Daniel. And I know the other people, but I don't want to get. I'm like 99% sure I know their names, but I don't want to get them wrong. But I know who they are, and I'll get them next time. And that doesn't sound good that I said that, but I already did. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about Hognose snakes because that's primarily what I do. We have it. It's like in the Discord. My Discord is kind of small. but it's a good group of people. It's going to talk about reptile or hognose breeding ups and downs. It's going to be talking about the show. The podcast yesterday that MJ did with Dave was really good, especially if you get into like the meat of it when I get going, to get the ball going under discussion, and Dave loosens up and MJ and him are just talking. That was really good. It was entertaining too. It's pretty funny. There's definitely several very funny parts in it. And so anyway, the shows have been going good. I talked about that a little bit before I got thrown off with the camera not working there. But the shows have been good. Overall, the reptile market is, of course, good. I know that's kind of like a thing that's interesting topic to a lot of people. And, it makes sense. Overall, hey, Brandon. See, Brandon's here. Overall, the most important thing is really just to do this for the fun of it. As soon as you get a little too analytical or you have to be making a certain amount of money, I think you're going to have more struggles and you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on yourself and things aren't going to go as well. And so you got to always have the plan or, prioritize just the fun aspect of it. And that can definitely be diminished if you are trying to look for a specific amount of income. And that's the thing too, like some of this stuff definitely takes time when it comes to, any reptile species you're working with. Because, I've worked with other reptile species, of course, leopard geckos and African fat tail geckos. That's a very different ball game just because of the maintenance. Those animals need a lot of maintenance. Hognose, of course, a lot easier. Hognose are just a species I like a lot more. So that's why I ended up, I've actually had hognose longer than I've had geckos. But overall, these shows have been good. The shows, I'd say, the amount I've been making is actually about comparable to the previous year. And actually my PayPal metrics keep, the insights. They changed the name on it, but the insights, basically, it shows you your previous year, sales, in contrast to the current years. And then the past 30 days compared to the past 30 days from the same time last calendar year. And, even my PayPal, it's fairly consistent. There is the one thing is there's more hognose in the market. So, you go to a show and there's more people with hognose, there's more options. And so I'd say the market's definitely very good because my sales are about the same, but there's actually more competition. There's more diversity. And then sometimes I go to these shows and I don't really have that much low end. People are like, you have an albino het snow. And I'm like, I should, but I don't. I had a few, I sold them, but I have these really nice purple line extreme red het snow albinos I made that I worked my ass off for 8 years. And a lot of times some people are just looking for something a little more affordable. And Jeff, I had at least 10 people say they tried to buy Smudge. Thank you for him. Yeah. So Avery got a very interesting super Arctic anaconda double het sunburst. And that's where that joke came about. Carl got 69, 420, 304. Avery's like, don't sell that. I told her I'm not selling it. You got it. And then she's like, make sure. She's afraid that I was going to accidentally sell it. So then I made up this fake name of somebody that bought it. I've seen a show with more than one vendor with hogs. Yeah, Sophia. Yeah, there's definitely more hognose in the market. It's definitely, I wouldn't call it flooded. That's for sure. But we are coming from this turnaround of 3 years ago. If you had a hognose snake, it's and you had nice ones for sale, you were king shit. You could ask pretty much whatever you wanted. I see people paying dumb amounts of money for stuff. And, even through that, I'd say overall, when I did sell stuff, I definitely tried to still stay, fair priced. And that's the thing too. Even if you bought hognose at a higher price 2 years ago, because I have had people point that out, not many, but hey, I bought an Arctic double het sunburst, or I bought, this toffee belly headache xanthic 3 years ago, and I paid this amount. But for the amount of eggs that a hognose snake lays and how many babies you hatch, if you do the math of the dollar cost average of what investment you have per baby you hatch based on your investment in the parents, hognose prices are still actually really cheap, but yeah, there's definitely more of them. It's that the market isn't flooded with too many projects. There's just it's really almost a perfect amount. If there was 4 new morphs released in the next 2 years, then it would be a bit overwhelming. But there's not 4 new morphs. Nobody's hanging on to shit like that. It's not happening. Oaks PA's had 0 hognose vendors last show. The show was grimy though, so wasn't mad about it. Yeah, some of those. There's a lot of reptile shows in Pennsylvania. I remember going to the Monroeville, PA shows when I was 14 and 15 with my dad. I'd be vending geckos, and just doing so many local small shows in PA and Ohio. I don't know. That's why I might have like, I don't know, like a form of, it's definitely not this, but let's just call it for humor's sake, PTSD. I love vending these shows in different areas like Salt Lake City. People say, why are you going to Salt Lake City? I'm like, well, I really like that area. It's really nice. It's a lot of fun. Rented a Jeep Strangler, drove that around, and met a lot of really cool people. We went swimming, fucked around in the gym. You got a bunch of weights and kettlebells, and there's a bunch of like slam balls that are completely unattended. You can do whatever you want. So it's a really good time. And there's a lot of nice people at all these shows. And, so like some of these shows I'm not making the best sales, but, it's all like, write-offs for the business. And more importantly, I want to go out and do some stuff, post-traumatic vending disorder. Yeah, PTVD. That's a new one. Thanks, Brandon. Brandon just invented one. We got PTVD, post-traumatic vending disorder. Most people probably get that from vending PA shows. Yeah, lots of ball pythons. Billings, though, didn't have that many ball pythons. Billings overall, though, was kind of a small show. That was actually kind of in the group cluster of the shows I just did. But anyway, the attendance of these shows have been good ever since the introduction of social media and influencers and TikTok. And, that's really like the reptile market's expanded so much. So it's always evolving. The reptile market in general and the Hognose community too. The Hognose community is a lot of fun. It's really blossomed in the last 5-6 years. Like 10 years ago was so different. I feel like more now, there's a lot more people talking among each other, people coming up with ideas like Susie Moonstone Plains. She was doing this grading on Hognose structures and then dispositions, and then also scales and, the one thing I seen was use anal plates. If I was to grade anal plates, I'd grade anal plates on like females when they're larger, because your females with the more narrow anal plates have a higher probability of egg binding. It's definitely synonymous, with complications if their ventral is small. And for some of those, I just wait till they're a little more mature. But yeah, anal plates, sometimes they're the full anal plate. I kind of like look at them like my thumbnail, because that's how I kind of like look at if I think the female's mature enough. Or has those mature just like characteristics. And then some have the divided anal plate. But yeah, some Hognose definitely have some abnormal scales that can be due to interference during embryonic development, and that can be caused by a little influx of bacteria, which Hognose are sensitive to. I've talked about that a long time. That's why it's very important to keep your Hognose snake's water very clean. Hognose are very sensitive to bacteria. When they drink, if you notice, they backwash a lot. So what I do is I give my Hognose fresh water. I put their face right in it. I give small bowls. By the time I give them water 5-7 days later, I want that small bowl to already be tipped over and dried out. Hognose aren't a species that drink every day. They don't need water all the time. Do they need available water, clean water? Yeah, sure. Definitely, especially after feeding. We're always able to make sure something has constant clean water. You check it like once a day. Yeah, sure. It's not going to be 24/7 all the time. But with Hognose, I like to make sure that when they're drinking, they're thirsty, they're getting fresh water. You don't really want stagnant water with them. I know some are pointier than, I think you're talking about the rostral scale, Moonstone Plains. I know some are pointier than others. Some like the pointy side of the egg, and others rounder like the rounder side of the chicken egg. All right, she's not talking about that. She's talking about the anal plate. Okay. And then, that's one. So like the tail length too, something I'm always like, I wouldn't say I'm always concerned with, but I like to have good anatomical features when I'm breeding any Hognose snake. So short bodies, short faces. Short body is a thing, and some of those are very hard to unwind once those traits pop up. They're fairly inheritable, and even when you outcross them, some of that DNA, the building blocks for that, animal, some of that DNA that you aren't going to want is going to pass on, even if it's not showing. And so when you say you have a short-bodied Hognose, kind of a short face, and you outcross, and those offspring, those F1s are fine. You can take some of those F1s and then breed them later down the road, pop up with that. It's always going to carry over. And then there's a lot of what people used to refer to, and I still kind of like piggyback genes. And it's kind of an interesting thing. People would notice that certain traits would pass along with other traits, and they'd refer to it as a piggyback. And the interesting thing about that is that's not like that was just pretty much anecdotal evidence that wasn't proven based on these breeders' interpretation, but their interpretation is actually correct. It's actually referred to as linkage in genetics. So if you're talking to a geneticist, if you're telling them this, they would be like, you mean like linkage? And actually linkage, that's something I learned more about, especially from my friend Ryan Salish, who's a very good, well, I'll call him a geneticist. He's about to graduate. But, you know, the thing is, I've talked to other geneticists, and some of them, they know their stuff, but they don't have any hands-on experience with reptile breeding. And the genetics they learned were more about, you know, modes of inheritance, you know, and a lot of times, you know, they were like genes that are like lethal genes and stuff. And those are usually the examples of genetics traits that they would, you know, learn about, you know, and of course they go into the whole system of like, you know, how chromosomes work and that. But anyway, I think I should get back on track with what we were talking about. I mean, we're kind of within, you know, I'm still kind of like on track, but let's see what else we got before I just ramble too much. Dwarfism of snakes is fatal eventually. So yeah, that's the thing. If you keep selectively lying, and I guess it will continue a little bit about that, because essentially the way alleles are inherited, we think that each allele is inherited like in an equal 50-50. But a lot of them actually kind of break off in clusters off the chromosome, because you have this DNA code, these alleles that are on these strands of chromosomes, and a lot of times they're inherited, they're passed off in little clusters. And so sometimes like it's very common for neighboring alleles to come with another one. And these alleles can, you know, have sometimes probably detrimental effects. I mean, it's definitely not going to be limited to like, you know, genes that affect pigmentation and color. These neighboring alleles might affect something in the animal, such as, you know, facial anatomical structures. And that's when you can end up with like short faces and stuff. And I don't think a coincidence that albinos have, you know, ocular issues if you selectively line breed, where they have these enlarged eyes. I think that makes a lot of sense, because, you know, albinism affects eye pigmentation, and, you know, why wouldn't that also affect, you know, the individual's eyes in different ways? And there could be some linked alleles, and that's why it's kind of hard to separate. Or those original albinos are inbred so much, you got these negative effects, and so those negative effects are kind of always just going to carry on no matter how much you outcross them, because you have to breed back, and sometimes those will resurface. So either way, it kind of makes sense, you know, which either one I was talking about, if it's one case or the other. All right. And so I'd say the hognose market and community, it's still on track. Are we going to see more hognose, you know, on the market, and they're going to bring certain prices down? And so Brandon here, yes, don't waterboard your hognose. I'm saying I'm learning stuff. I guess if you hit that, it highlights things. So that's pretty cool. And thanks, Carrot. Yeah, she's talking about, she's like, thanks for coming out to Salt Lake, or glad you came out to Salt Lake. And yeah, I always see TBM. I always forget that it's Brandon. Do you have any projects with frosted going on? Yes, I do. Yeah, actually, I should bring out some large pinks, because these guys are probably about ready to be fed again. Now, I have some Arctic right here. They're Het Frost Lavender Posset Sables. So I have those. Those aren't going to be probably ready to breed for like another year. Those will be like a year old, you know, this like summer, fall, more like fall. And so, yeah, they'll need it a full other like year and a half. And do I candle my eggs, or just keep them oriented the same way? Yeah, pretty much. I don't really candle my eggs ever. I don't really find it necessary. You know, every now and then I will for, you know, just I guess the fun aspect of it, or, you know, just to kind of check in on things. But it's not something I'm ever regularly doing. Especially when the eggs are first laid. I've had some ones that look like they have like weak or faint embryos, and that could be too, because the embryo is still like, you know, not completely attached. Well, it is attached. That vascular system is attached to you know, the egg shell, and that's responsible for getting rid of waste and, you know, fueling oxygen, or getting oxygen to the embryo. So, you know, the way I do it, this is actually a really quick way. If I have hognose eggs laid and I want to know if they're like pretty healthy and fertile, what I do is I just incubate them, and I wait like 3, 4, 5 days. You know, even in 2 days, it's usually, you can do this. But after like a few days or a week, just touch the eggs. If there's a baby developing in them, most of the eggs should be pretty tight. Like you ever feel Hognose eggs when they're first laid? They're not like a typical colubrid egg. You know, they're not like a corn snake egg. They're not like any of the pantherphytes. None of the rat snakes. They're not like a like a bull snake. They're not like the Pituophis. They're not like Lamprepeltis eggs at all. They're like really spongy. Actually, I got a funny story about that. So, I was probably like 19 years old at the time, and my dad was, breeding corn snakes, and so it was around, the time when he's producing corns and I'm producing hognose. At this time, our snake collections were like basically we were neighboring each other. I had the far side, and he had the closer side of the reptile room. Well, one day we were working in the room simultaneously. He's working on his corn snakes. I have this metal table. I put my hognose egg, and I have this beautiful clutch laid. My dad, for whatever reason, comes over. And he starts pushing my hognose eggs. And the one was like about to burst. And he goes, yeah, these eggs aren't any good. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I said, get the fuck away from them. I flipped out. He goes, those eggs are perfect, you asshole. They're fucking fine. I was like, he goes, oh, their eggs are like that? I'm like, yeah. They're not like your corn snake eggs, man. Like, relax. I think that thing was like, the egg ended up being fine. But yeah, anyway, hognose eggs. I've had some other people that bred colubrids before, and then they bred hognose, and they said that they almost pitched their first hognose clutch. I've heard that from a couple people, because they said the eggs were all like squishy and spongy, and they thought they weren't good. But hognose eggs, the funny thing about them is like they're laid in these sandy, loamy soil embankments, much like turtles lay their eggs. Now, their eggs aren't similar to that of turtle eggs at all. Turtle eggs, especially any of the, aquatic, or let's say even like box turtle like say we got box turtles, and then even aquatic turtle species, that live in the United States that are laying, well, they all lay eggs, but their egg composition, the structure of their eggshell is very different from a hognose's egg. And hognose eggshells, like, sometimes they're not like the toughest, but as the baby grows in them, those things definitely firm up, but they still have a much spongier like texture. They're not thick and like leathery like a lot of other snake eggs, even just reptile eggs. All right. Yeah, you can post Shorty Avery, because that's the thing. Somebody's hognose was short by. Some of it's like not due to inbreeding though. Oh, and a bunch of messages came through. It seems like my thing's jumping around a bit. Incubate until there's no debate. That's what Moonstone said. Yeah, I think that's a really good method. I even had this one hognose egg that was perfectly clear, and you could see the vascular system really well. And actually, I made a video. It was like a year ago. I posted a little over a year ago. And somebody messaged me and they said there's going to be something wrong with that baby. It's going to be dead. And like I had one just like that. And I'm like, well, no, it's probably fine, but whatever. I'll see when it hatches. But it ended up being okay. Hognose eggs are definitely weird. Hey, Ellie, how's it going? Hey, Trinity. Hey, Joe. Yeah, don't. Well, my dad knows now. This was a long time ago. My dad definitely knows. If hognoses have good veins with candle but slightly discoloration, can they still hatch and be good? Nick asked that. Yes, I have hognose eggs that are sometimes like yellowy colored. Hognose, I've had hognose these big long milk snake like eggs and little ping pong ball eggs in the same clutch. So your clutches can actually vary the entire clutch. You can have small eggs, you can have big eggs, long eggs. I've even had some like misshapen ones. They can be off yellow. I remember. See, my old Instagram account, I really wish I would have got that back, because there was a lot of good stuff on it. I remember in 2016 and 17, when I first started, I posted some pretty good clutches. I had this like long stretch of like when I was breeding, and pretty much all I posted in my Instagram at that time were hognose clutches. And there's one female, I remember the previous year, she only laid like 5 eggs, 3 huge ones, 2 small ones. And then the second year, which was a year I was posting on Instagram, it was like the first time, for my breeding season. And she laid, I remember, it's 13. And these eggs were like yellow. Like they were like this, basically like somebody who didn't brush their teeth for a long time, kind of like off yellow. These aren't attractive looking eggs. And yeah, they were all fine. My dad's in here now. So my dad used to, he's done this a few times. We bred leopard geckos together for a long time. And, my dad would put Lucky Stones side by side in some of the egg boxes, the gecko egg boxes, and just cover them up and just like barely brush them off so it looks like 2 little white perfect eggs. I'm like, oh, eggs. And I remember the first time I was like, I don't even know, like my brain was like not even processing. I was like, what the fuck? My dad's just sitting there laughing at me. So Yeah, I hatched a bagged egg, really. All right, well, it wasn't bad if you hatched it, Leslie. People not realizing Jeff is a junior might mess with some people. Yes, my dad is a senior. That's Jeff Senior, and I'm Jeff Junior. It's very confusing because my dad bred corn snakes and did his own lines of things with corn snakes. I have hognose snakes. Really, not much like crossover there at all. I don't really have any experience with corn snakes. My dad has limited experience with hognose snakes because he's had to come over and help me a bunch of times when I'm sick or doing other things. And then plus, I lived with my dad for a long time, and he's still involved with my life. So of course he knows, a decent amount about hognose. The first time he's seen hognose eggs, what hatched, bro? Nothing. I got eggs incubating for some pretty neat stuff, and I got your favorite pairing going. Yeah, he's here typing with my same fucking name too in the chat. That's pretty funny. So the first thing he said to me was, "Why are you here?" Brandon. So Brandon, when he came out here, he met my dad, and I know that. So he goes, when he first met my dad goes, "Why are you here?" I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything else. So right now I'm scrolling. Oh, and also my last podcast I did with Steve Ainsley, that one was really good, especially because I was at Sacramento. It was like he jumped in about 35 minutes after the podcast started / aired. So if you do listen to that one, I would skip to the middle part. Steve's got some really good life advice, and he has quite the beaded lizard collection. And Moonstone, she's asking about she's talking about looking at morphs you like and what you invest in. So if he asks, Super Arctic Lavender is such a dream of mine. I think it's called, what's Moonstone? Moonbeam is Super Arctic Lavender Anaconda. Though honestly, I'm a sucker for anything with lavender. Elton is not here, Dad. So yes, Stefan asked about hognose projects. There's a lot of really good hognose projects, and that's what Moonstone Plain said. Look up, projects that interest you. So moonstones are very pretty. The one thing is to look at projects too where you don't think they're being maybe overproduced or something that you want to particularly, something in particular you want to work on, or a project goal that you see maybe other people aren't working on. Something that you see, might be a little interesting. There's not like a massive diversity in hognose though, where you're going to work on a project that nobody else is really working on. There might be a few things like that, but there's not much. But yeah, right now, there's a lot of stuff you can do with hognose. New ones, of course, are like Swiss chocolate. You got skull face. That's kind of one that's like it's a gene, it's a morph, it's a mutation, but it's still in like the debate zone. And Gabby's, what's your favorite Super Arctic morph to breed? Oh, geez, well, Super Arctic enhances everything. Super Arctic is, it even makes leucistics crazy. Super Arctic Lucy, I got one here. I'll bring it out. Super Arctic Sable, Super Arctic, literally like everything is better. Or I should say gives it a really cool, unique look. Shouldn't say it's better. Aesthetically, I think so though. All right, now this Super Arctic Lucy, it's pretty nuts. This guy I sold, unfortunately, but he's still here for the time being. Really hate that he sold. He's in blue, but I'll still show him. And you can see the calicoing on his throat. See that white calicoing? He's got solid black eyes, although right now they're solid blue because it's in shed. Let's get a different one. See those white calico markings and that clear translucent just scales all over wherever you don't see that more like solid white. And then the Super Arctic Lucies have these really nice pink cheeks, solid black eyes. Try to get a clear shot of that. And their bellies are very opaly. They're very like shiny and iridescent. And that's because Super Arctic does a lot with displacing iridophores. Iridophores are platelets in their scales. They're responsible for refracting back light waves. So basically, they're a form of I wouldn't say camouflage. They really just control the colors, intensities, and hues when you're looking at a reptile species. you know, and all reptiles have them to a degree. Chameleons have a ton. That's how they're able to change colors so fast. They're not changing colors. They're refracting back different light waves. And that just shows you the power of iridophores. Well, hognose have a lot of iridophores. Now, since their scale structure is thicker and their scales are pretty keeled, it seems like you don't get the same effects on something like, say, like a rainbow boa or like, you know, red-tailed boa, you know, which have more refractive, kind of a shiny appearance to them. But when you got a gene like super Arctic and then you combine it with leucistic, you can actually see the power of the iridophores and what it does, making them translucent. Because it's like, well, there's no pigment there. How are they more clear? Well, the iridophore platelets, which are basically just like crystalline platelets that reside in their scale structure that are at different pitches to refract back different light waves. So it could be short light wavelengths, which are more like blue and like kind of like violet light rays. And then, you know, it can be anything in between. And then some of these, you know, it's kind of like polar bear hair doesn't have iridophores, but they're clear, but they appear white. And that's because of the light hitting them, making it look like that. And so that's the one I give as an example a lot is blue jays. Blue jays aren't actually blue. They're just shades of like dark grays and blacks, and their feathers are partially clear. But the light waves that refract off the structure of their feathers are doing short light waves. So you're interpreting it as blue. But if you're to look at them in like very low lighting, or basically if there's zero lighting, which is kind of like an oxymoron looking at something in zero lighting, but they aren't blue. All right, let's see what kind of new comments we got here. Sending pay. All right, send the money. Do it. That's my favorite. When somebody's like, hey, I'd like this animal, send payment. Like, that's good. You know, it's like, do you really need to know the weight? You can see it. It's healthy. Is it really going to be a big make or break if it's 12 grams or like 17 grams? Really? All right. Let me get a weight on that. I'm struggling on which one to get between the two, but I think I'm leaning towards the sunburst. All right. I'm missing a whole conversation here. So I'm gabbing. I want to be in the reptile or the hognose community here, and everybody in the hognose community is talking. I'm having my own thing here. Is that the only in the subarctic gene? Well, that's an example of subarctic and leucistic. You know, subarctic sables are really hot looking. I got those. Subarctic sunburst. You know, subarctic toffees look crazy. Subarctic, really anything subarctic is a pretty unique and really pretty looking snake. And yeah, moonstone plains usually likes the pattern variations of subarctics. You got a lot of variety, really nice looking snakes with the black, the whites, the pinks, and then the, you know, iridophore changes, which again, that's what refracts back light. So you can get these hognoses that look more translucent and have purplish and blue on them than these subarctics. Subarctic toxics look really good. Yeah, I don't have many of those. Hopefully I have more this year. So, okay, so subarctic sunburst condas are in my favorites. But yeah, subarctic, so that's what Avery is talking about. Yeah, the subarctic sunburst anacondas are insanely pink. I'll get one. I got one over there. I got that whole clutch of subarctic sunburst condas. There's like 3 or 4 condas, and they are really pink. Hopefully this camera picks it up. And I don't think how many people are going to the reptile talks next weekend that are currently here. All right, so this is a subarctic sunburst anaconda. Threw some chips out, hung onto some chips. All right, it's looking a little orangey on the camera, but you can see it's like a pretty strong, like deep salmon pink. And the cool thing about this guy is too, you know, he's a culmination of a lot of, you know, genes here. But if you notice, his head structure is pretty good. His head structure is like awesome, not short. Nice wild heterodon nose there. Nice heterodon nose. Eyes a little big, but they're, you know, they're still good. They're not bug-eyed. All right. Now I'm kind of feel like I'm restraining. I feel like it's like when I'm trying to look at Cadio or I'm trying to pet her and she just wants to run away. And so the pattern on this guy's back is more like lavender. I think you can kind of see that. It's making him look a little more orangey on camera, but these are really hot. So subarctic sunburst anacondas. Like if you want like a really nice pink hognose, like the pinkest hognose, my purple extreme red snows, the 5th gens, or those. It's a different kind of pink though. But there's all kinds of different pinks. So you have the really high pink snow hogs. Like, you know, I have my one project where it's my 5th generation now of purple extreme red snows. I don't even know what percent. I'd have to think about it because they're just on my 5th generation of breeding back. But they're over 75% of my best purple line and extreme red and my own red lineage animals. And I keep trying to increase them. And I'm going to outcross them again. Now that I have the 5th gen. Once I raise the 5th gen snows up, I'm going to breed them back into, I'm going to breed them to color blasts. And so those will be 6th generation. And when I raise those up, I'll eventually have 7th generation. But that's how it's, you know, that's what's fun about the polygenics. You can just continually improve them. There's no end game. You can just continually improve them. Sometimes the improvements, you know, sometimes things can always go backwards. My dad and I have observed that in the leopard gecko community because somebody would be working on a project that looked really good, and then the further generations they went, the look of the animal or that project actually started to diminish. So that's the thing too. It's like polygenic, something like RB pastel. People have been asking me about that one. I want to do just a video about that one alone because that's a good example of what's a polygenic. I know people say it's dominant. It's not. Promise you it's not. If you don't want to listen, that's cool. You know, or you think you have a different opinion, that's fine. But anyway, that's why there's so much debate too on like what are the characteristics, and the characteristics of RB are very ambiguous and subjective at this point because that can even happen with a selectively line bred trait that kind of like goes off the rails a little bit. RB pastel hasn't even been treated like polygenic, and it gets outcrossed all the time. So the distinguishing characteristics of this particular animal is like really up in the air. And, you know, it has a lot of people saying different things. You know, I have some people saying they have characteristics of like an Arctic, and that's not, you know, what they should look like really at all. All right, let's see. Oh, Gabriel did a super chat. How hard is, all right, I'm going to highlight this. I think I can. Yeah, cool. How hard is it to breed hognose from start to end? Just got my first pet hognose, and that's all I wanted. But hearing all these morphs in the Discord are inspiring me. Maybe just a personal project. Yeah, Gabriel. Yeah, you're in the Discord. I'm happy you're there. It's a lot of fun, a lot of inside jokes going on in the Discord. Hognose are relatively easy to breed when it comes to species of snakes. Are hognose like rocket science? No, you know, not at all. Like, you know, it's funny because, like, say if I'm like talking about some of the hognose snakes and then somebody takes some information and to repeat it, and let's say like I don't get credit for it or whatever. Of course, that's going to happen. It happens with everything. But sometimes that kind of like, yeah, something like, I don't really like that. And you know, you could always look at it as like, well, it's hognose breeding. It's not rocket science. I'm not like saying I don't think I'm like super smart for breeding hognose snakes. It's just a lot of paying attention to the species, and just like a lot of, you know, trial and error, and really just listening to the animals and how they respond to you, you know. So if you like, say, like, I'll give you an example. You raise hognose up too fast, you know, they're being overfed. Obviously, I'm already using adjectives to describe, like, you know, an animal that's probably not going to do well, you know, breeding, because anybody really here knows, you hear the words overfeed, you know, something's, you know, not good. You're doing too much of it. You know, but say you raise up hognose too big, too fast, and you start getting a bunch of egg-bound hognose with like, you know, egg binding problems and, you know, fertility issues. Well, that's that animals, you know, if you're able to figure out what the problem is, that animal is telling you, hey, you know, that I'm not doing well. This is like, you know, my nutritional intake and portions were not appropriate, and this is why I'm doing poorly. So anyway, with all the information out there now, though, you know, there's it's pretty easy to breed hognose snakes. You know, you know, raise them more gradually. You can feed them a lot as babies and juveniles. You get them bigger, you slow them down. Brumation is definitely, I think, a very necessary process, just because it organizes your breeding season. And when you organize everything, things are going to go better. So that's the whole thing when I talk to people about breeding, is like organization is key. Organizing anything is going to equal success, including when it comes to natural aspects such as an animal's breeding cycle and behavior. So when I am simulating a cool down season, all I am doing is simulating a seasonal cycle that's going to induce egg follicle growth in the females, and then consequently them ovulating, you know, once they've already been bred. So just having age appropriate snakes, brumating them, taking really good care of them, fresh water and food, and pairing them. And that's really about it. You know, of course, then I get egg boxes in once they are, all bred and gravid. And that's pretty much, the general things you really need to know. There's a little bit more than that. Like when you start, pairing them, you don't want to have them too warm. You definitely want to keep the temps a little cooler, have their metabolic rate be a little slower when you're first pairing them together. And so that's one thing I was going to talk about too. I mentioned in Discord, like ups and downs of the breeding. And that's the one thing I've been getting some questions about are, hognose snakes and egg binding. And most of the egg binding, I'd say, is like, definitely the cause is them being overfed. I think they're too large. When I started breeding female hognose at smaller sizes, I've started doing a lot better. And these smaller sizes really aren't small. They're just small in relation to what people expect them or think they should be. And that's the problem. People have all these expectations. And I developed my expectations around what worked with the hognose and what the hognose were basically, telling me. So when I would look at wild research reports. I've actually found hognose in the wild. Like I found like 140-gram female hognose that was gravid. She had like 5 eggs in her. You could palpate, you could feel. And anyway, hognose in the wild, they're growing at a very gradual rate, and they're not going to wait until they're really large to breed. They're going to have a good mature age, but relatively small size in the wild when they breed. And what that's going to do is they're going to produce smaller clutches, but over the millions of years these snakes evolved, their initial breeding seasons are them not producing a lot of eggs. So when you're starting out a female that has excessive nutrients and way larger than she would be in the wild once you'd have her first breeding season, it's just a recipe for a snake to overproduce, egg follicles and then, have just too many eggs. And they actually do pretty well. Even like I bred some females this year right around like, 190, 200 grams. And some of these things developed like 12, 13 eggs. They're not doing that in the wild. So the thing is, this is a very unnatural occurrence for an animal that evolved and adapted a certain way. And then this expectation in captivity for them to lay these massive clutches right off the bat for their first season and not have complications is like a lot to ask. And I'm actually sometimes surprised there actually isn't even more. But I say breeding your females first season around 170 grams. It's one of my favorite weights. But you want to have good, structure, big mature head, wide anal plate, and just look like a mature mama, not like some small one. Are there subarctic stables with high iridophores? Gabby asked that. Yeah, the subarctic gene, it definitely changes iridophore structure a lot. And so that's allows for more translucent scales. You get more like reflective, shiny scales. So there's probably a higher population of iridophores in this mutation. And the iridophores are at different slants and angles, giving off different light waves and everything. I don't know exactly what's going on, from like, let's say, like microscopic perspective. And how about reptiles? Reptile Talk. Reptile Talk is next weekend. It's a symposium / reptile community get together. All proceeds are going to US ARC. I'm going to be talking about hognose snakes, and there's a decent amount of people coming from the hognose community. I'm going to be unveiling and talking about some pretty unique stuff there. It's only going to be there though, so if you want to see it, come out. And I'll be there all weekend to hang out, talk reptiles. We're going to try to organize some type of like party night. I don't know. We could go. It's like a Japanese arcade, and they have all kinds of stuff. There's also swimming, lots of entertainment out there. So all the hognose people, well, hopefully we can get to do something fun like that. Where is my child? Brandel Jr. is a pretty one. He's a super conda lavender Arctic het albino male. He's actually in the other room. He's getting prepared for breeding. I can show him later. I wish I would have bought that crackly looking female you used to have up. Which crackly female? I can't remember. It's probably like a really shattered super Arctic conda. I do have another pretty high black shattered super Arctic conda. It's not as crazy, but it's a het sable. Good structure over hitting a fucking morph. Yeah, I posted on my stories a couple weeks ago where I bred some conda double het storm cloud pos het albino males outcrossed to these albino and snows that were 66 het storm cloud. And anyway, I had snowburst males, but they were more related, and some of them kind of have shorter faces and stuff, a little buggier look to them. And, they're not bad, but if I breed them back, there's going to be definitely negative effects. So I prioritized head structure and health and genetic diversity over hitting better odds. And in the long run, you actually hit better odds doing this because you don't want animals with poor structure, short faces. As soon as you get that, it's very hard to unwind it through outcrossing and whatnot. Like, hopefully she lays a good clutch. I'll pose it. I have a snowburst female, so that's a triple visual. She's a sable, axanthic albino. And the funny thing is, her brother kind of has, some not the best anatomical features. She, though, on the other hand, is perfect. For her morph diverse, or for the genetic stacking in her being a triple recessive, you'd look at her head structure, and I'd rate her at like a 9. Read your super chat. Well, I read the one. Is there another one? No. All right. Good head structure. People are paying for input. Yeah, I think I started talking. Why is it called pastel? You know what? That's the thing about pastel. When you hear pastel, and sometimes you see certain animals are like bright colored, for a while, sometimes definitions can change. Now, the definition of pastel hasn't changed, but pastel means like kind of like more bright. More light kind of colors. Like, they're kind of like, it reminds me of like baby shower colors, like, that you get in like gift wrap stuff and everything. Like the gift wrap paper, those are always like pastel, like light, like kind of like baby powder blue, or like a light, like lemon yellow, like fun, soft, like colors. But see, then, you look at something like certain things like a pastel ball python, the babies are bright yellow. And I'm like, well, it's like, shouldn't it not be pastel then? And anyhow, the pastels, they're kind of like, I'd say they're more of like a color, like they're not an enhancer because it's polygenic. You could refer to them as an enhancer because 11 ghost or red could be considered an enhancer, but they're not an enhancer like a mutant gene is. It's a polygenic. So the RB pastel stuff, yeah, it's like, I'd say it's more of like an enhancer. And now I'd say my RBs that I've line bred that look better are more of like a type of red phase. So I'd say they're more of like a red phase, at this point. And yeah, some of them do have like a nice kind of like really soft, like light, clean background. And maybe that's where you can make sense of calling them a pastel. People pay, Dad, and then you answer the question. And so it's like a donation, but then you also answer it. You can pay him to get him to see a comment. Yeah, as Brandon just answered, Fury. I don't know. I think that's 9:36. So this is 10 minutes ago. Oh, no. He's ignored the question about brumating hatchlings 22 times now. Is that really been mentioned that many times? Okay, I brumate hatchlings all the time. Naturally in the wild, hognose are hatching out in September. And pretty soon after, September, follows October. And then midway through October, hognose are residing in hibernaculums. So in the wild, I believe most baby hognose aren't really they're either having not many meals or no meals until the following season. Sometimes they hatch out. Like somebody found an eastern hognose clutch. Now I know it's not a plains hognose clutch, but I know this is going to happen with plains hognose. Somebody found some eastern hognose eggs that were still hatching, right at the beginning of November, and that's because those eggs were laid in a cooler area, so their metabolic rate was lower and they took longer to hatch. And that's the thing. Hognose eggs in the wild are taking way longer to hatch than the captive ones. They're taking 90, 100 days, maybe even a little longer. Yapaholics Anonymous. Yeah, that's where I belong. He gets into it. Yeah, that's me. In the hog zone. Yeah, more like the fucking incredibly long-winded, drawn-out hog zone. All enjoying the talk. Glad you guys are enjoying it. All right. How much should a female gain during her gravid period? That's an interesting one because, I'd even see it with African fat-tailed geckos. Like once they're done breeding, they'd hit a growth spurt. Well, when I breed hognose, I'll have females that I breed around 160, 170 grams. And by the time they're done laying, let's say they double clutch, by the time they're done with their second clutch and they've gained all of their weight back, they're considerably bigger. At that point, a lot of times they're in the low 200 gram range. So they continue to actually grow a little bit even when they're gravid. And, certain females, they gain, I've seen people saying their snakes gain 70, 80 grams, 90 grams while they're gravid. And a lot of that is due to, the weight of the embryos that are developing and growing inside them, the eggs. But, I don't really, that's the thing. It's like, that's cool information, but I really don't pay that much attention to the weights, because I like eyeball a lot of stuff. So that's good, like research information to have, published, like, oh, this is like the average growth of a female, like, that she has from being gravid to like the end of the season, or how much weight she gains while gravid. They burn up a lot of those nutrients too, because the funny thing is, a lot of those, the nutrients go to those eggs. Even in those females that I'm slamming with food while they're gravid, once they, lay, they're pretty small. Some of these females after they lay, like even if you're slamming them, like some look pretty good. Like they look like a week after they've laid, they don't even look like they've laid anymore. But, it doesn't look like they've been slammed with food. Like they're like a nice, like, streamline, hognose afterwards. So I don't have an exact answer for you. But overall, they should, that's a tough one for me to answer, because like I don't have an exact weight. It depends on the size of the clutch, and once they're like done laying and everything, and they've had all their weight back, I'd say hognose grow a good, like, I don't know, in that period, like maybe 25%. Once they're done and they've gained all their weight back, like, and that's just without egg weight. That's actually just from started breeding season. Once they've laid their eggs and they've got all their weight back and the season's over, that's how much those females grown. But some of these females develop pretty big clutches, and I don't have too much information on how much those females gain while being gravid. It would be an interesting one. Praise Smudge Lord. Very nice looking hognose. The Hognose Emporium said that. If you want to see Smudge Lord, go to Avery's page, or Skinks Inc. Skinks Inc. Avery Avezi, Aves of the Apes. That's her Instagram. She has smudge posts up there, and also Carl God 69420 posts Smudge Lord. Yeah, Brandon, you're getting actually one of Brandel Jr.'s babies. Jeff, do you know when your female needs to be retired, and how long do you need to rebuild resources before being bred again? Just until the next year? That's a good question. Yeah, it depends. Each snake is different. That's the thing. Even in other species, I've seen people like, breed a boa, and then the following season, she doesn't have all of her weight back. She just doesn't look quite right. So that, breeder wants to like give her that season off. Yeah, that's up to the individual breeder. Actually, I had, it's mostly, that's the thing. It's like I posted stuff on my story, so stuff's easy to forget. But I had like a decent amount of females I skipped the season on. Not so much because they weren't, it wasn't like they weren't fit. I just still had a lot of babies. So some of the projects were kind of like just, it'd just be a little redundant. I already have some of these ones I'm trying to sell. So why try to just flood them out and just drop the price? Because it's like I've seen people produce twice as much as they should, and then they have to sell their stuff for half as much. And so you could actually produce less animals and make it easier on yourself, the market, and everything, and better for the animals, and just have less. And that can be a tough one to juggle, because sometimes you don't know what your females are going to produce. But hognose, like my record, I had a female that bred 12 consecutive years in a row. And she did great. I wouldn't say it was like really hard on her body. Naturally in the wild, if they're ready to go every season, they're going to breed. In some cases, they might produce infertils, and actually producing infertils are very easy on their body. From all my observations over the last like 25 years of breeding hognose snakes, it's very easy for them to pass slugs, because slugs don't really seem like, they don't decompose in their body like a fertilized egg does. It's much easier for them to pass. And you want to see a sable with high expressions, so like a really black sable. But anyway, going back to this one, I've retired females before, after they've had like 5, 6, 7 years breeding. Males, I think they can breed pretty much till they die, or just don't want to. The female that bred for me 12 consecutive years, that's 12 consecutive successful years. The last 3 years, she didn't breed. The 1 year, 2 years, I tried to like breed her. She didn't want to, so she just didn't. She looked good, and then the last year, she just started looking old, and her muscle tone started depleting, and then she slowly died at the age of like 17. Would she have lived longer? That'd be one to say. If I didn't breed her, you never know, because you can't have, one compared to the other. In like a alternate reality, say if you didn't breed her. Do I think it did? No. Naturally, this is a cycle they're supposed to go through. If you think breeding your hognose is bad for them or shortens life expectancy, and you think it's bad, just don't breed hognose. You know, if your hognose doesn't look good or you don't think it's up to par for a breeding season, give it the year off. Don't push it. You know, that being said, I've had hognose come out of brumation. They're on the thin side, and I feed them up before I pair them. And I've had some where I've got their weight back up, and then they breed and they do completely fine. You know, in the wild, these things are like, you know, under a lot more harder extremes. So in captivity, they have like a lot of luxuries, and what we project our feelings on the animal as being like, hey, this one's a little underweight or whatever. You know, it may not necessarily be, and that's just an example. I'm not saying go ahead and breed like a thinner hognose or whatever. But they're getting way less nutrients in the wild during the breeding season versus what we do in captivity. Hence why we get these like double clutches and these very big clutches. And sometimes these big clutches, again, like I say, there's a lot of negative aspects to it. First year female that's overproducing eggs, higher probability of things going wrong. Tears into oviduct, egg binding, due to all that overproduction. Hognose, hatchlings, and brumation. Oh, I need like a water. I'll be right back. I think I have some right here. I sure hope I have some right here. Oh, I don't. Hold on one second. I got water over here. All right. So what are we at? Hognose, hatchlings, and brumation. So hognose, I kind of changed subject because I got distracted, I guess. But hognose in the wild, they hatch very close to when they have to brumate. So a lot of baby hognose aren't even eating and they're going right into brumation. Sure, some are getting some meals, but some, you know, hatch very late, and they're not supposed to be eating, or it's not good for them to eat when they don't have the proper seasonal temperatures to thermoregulate. Anyhow, a lot of times when I hatch out babies, you know, wait a few days, and sometimes they'll put them right into brumation. And you'll think, like, why even do that? Well, you could look at it the one way. It's, well, is it natural? And I think there's some, you know, positive aspects when it comes to feeding baby hognose, because naturally in the wild, hognose are hatching very close to the end of the season. And the one thing is, people know is some baby hognose are a little reluctant to eat. Well, when you brumate them, you're giving them a metabolism drop. And when you're giving them a metabolism drop, and then you are, you know, rewarming them up, you're then giving them a metabolism spike. And that metabolism spike is going to make them more inclined to want to eat. And the cool art back there, yeah, this is done by Avery. So as a lot of you know, we got the king of hogs, and we got the queen of hogs, Swiss chocolate, and a super Arctic. And both these paintings are done by Avery, Aves of the Apes. So again, she's on Instagram. If you want to check out her stuff, good art, good hognose, and good African fire skinks. I'm going to, well, I kind of covered it like twice. I'm never going to catch up. Brandon, I'd start typing out a response. Well, really, the whole thing is that metabolism drop and then metabolism spike makes your babies more inclined to want to eat. $2, thank you. It has to do with the plane. It's a TBM plane for 2 bowel movements. Super sticker. Thanks, Leviathan. Sorry, going back to that. Is it hard to overfeed a gravid female hognose? Just too big of meals. But yeah, and every now and then, like, you'll get a female. This happens if you're feeding them a lot. Sometimes they'll partially regurge when they get real close to laying, because their stomachs get a little uncomfortable. Naturally in the wild, they're probably not eating a lot when they're staging to lay, but you know, we're trying to feed them as much as possible so that when they do lay their eggs, they're not going to be super hungry and want to turn around and eat their eggs. Oh, very nice. Yeah, that LG female, that'll be really exciting. But yeah, it's hard to overfeed a female. Going back to that, actually, that's the only time where I say feed your adult females pretty much as much you want. Smaller meals, like every 3-4 days, go for it. Yeah, do that. All through the season, while they're gravid, once they're done laying, once they're done laying completely. Let's say they've laid one clutch and it's been like 2 months and doesn't seem like they're going to be laying a second clutch, cut them off from the food, take them down to every like 10, 12, 14 days. If they double clutch, once they get their weight back, yeah, cut them back. These big females, once they get big and you just keep hitting them like every 5-7 days, they'll keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll start seeing the negative effects. Actually, you're going to have more negative effects overfeeding a female hognose long term versus like somebody saying about like breeding a hognose. And yeah, that's the Carl Guy 69420. If you want to check out Smudge Lord the hognose, that's the Instagram right there. Hognose breeding might not be rocket science. Yeah, it is a bunch of little unique aspects about, breeding hognose. There's things that can like improve your success rate and everything, organizing, keeping everything organized, your cool down period, your pairings, marking your locks, feeding your females, up, and just keeping the maintenance, cleaning their closure, giving them fresh water, and preparing for the eggs and stuff like that. Hognose eggs are really easy to incubate. Cooling them down is actually even easy too. Like, you don't have to get hognose down to the mid 50s. I've cooled them down into the 60s with still great success. And those are some things too I've seen over the years where I've raised hognose. As far as like things that go wrong is like, again, like I used to get my female hognose too big when I first bred them. Like I'd get them like 220 grams, 250 grams, and while those aren't like, it's not necessarily too big. The problem is it's like, it's too big for a young female. Even the 3-year females, like I've had some people come to me and they have like 250 plus gram females that are 3 years old and they're still having issues with them. And it's like, again, it's like their oviducts are young. Their oviducts are their first time producing. They're producing these massive clutches that they're not intended to produce for a first time female. Yeah, Brandle's getting a Brandle Jr. I got a Brandle Jr. for you picked out. The prelay sheds they don't always go through those. I think your one is, ovulation shed, I meant. They always go, I've never had a female not go through a prelay shed. Now, I've heard of 2 people tell me that they had hognose lay eggs that didn't go through a prelay shed. The one person would always tell me really crazy stuff and they didn't seem very organized. And so that one, I don't really trust the source because there's 2 other people too that helped them with their eggs. I think they just threw the shed away and didn't see it. And so is it possible? I'm sure. I've never seen it. I've never seen a female hognose lay eggs without going through a prelay shed. Now, an ovulation shed or a shed that's, occurrent or congruent with developing egg follicles, those don't always happen. Like if you bring your hognose, some people say wait till they have an ovulation. Don't wait. Just pair them. Don't wait for a shed. How common is it for hognose females to reabsorb their eggs? They reabsorb egg follicles. If you do it enough, you definitely see it a few times. I've had ones where I feel bumps in them and stuff, marbles, and it's like, okay, those are egg follicles. I'm pairing them, I'm feeding them up, and then nothing happens. They don't lay, and they get like a little bigger and puffier, and then they kind of deflate. And I've seen leopard geckos reabsorb egg follicles, so it's like a lot like that. Yeah, and grandchild. Well, Brandle Jr., these are going to be babies. So they're not really grandchildren yet. It's just echoing in the house. I don't think so. It shouldn't be. My phone's off. Hold on. Yeah, my phone is off here, so. Do hognose ever lay eggs without or without the prelay shed? A lot of times they don't go through an ovulation shed, but prelay sheds, I've always had a female have a prelay shed. Going to have prints of those. I have stickers. Definitely have stickers. And Queen of Hogs, we're still working on stickers. I have King of Hogs right now stickers. I know it's not the same, but I was talking to a rubber boa breeder, and they said they will not eat after hatching unless they go through brumation, which is, so they have that effect with babies. Well, here's the thing. Most baby hogs, do you have to brumate baby Western hognose snakes? No. But, the one thing is, say if I hatch out a couple hundred, it's very easy to brumate them, give them that metabolism drop, and then get their rack systems all set up. So then when I warm them up and I put them in there, for one, they went through a short brumation cycle, which is going to have like no negative effects on them unless you do it like too long where they get dehydrated, which doing a short period is not going to happen. Just brumate them on a nice moist substrate, get them down to the mid 50s, high 50s. And so then when I go into this rack system, they're warmed up. They have that metabolism spike and are more inclined to eat. And then also I'm setting them up all at once, and it's really good for organization. All right, you see Ellie's going to play games. All right, see you. Sounds like they don't have ovulation sheds often. It depends. Well, some of it has to do with like lot of us, like hognose in the wild, are going through a shed. You know, after they come out of like a long brumation, and you know, they're more receptive to being bred, and so sometimes these sheds are, you know, congruent with them developing egg follicles, and sometimes they're just a natural shed cycle from them being in brumation for a long time, and then their metabolism coming back up, and then they're just, you know, developing new cells and they're shedding that excess, you know, the old skin. Yeah, the stickers are chef's open mouth kiss. They're pretty amazing. And the one thing interesting about baby rubber bows, too, going back to this, baby rubber bows, I've heard some people that are herping for them, finding them a lot of times looking for a little lizard eggs to eat. Actually, hognose snakes in the wild eat a lot of little lizard eggs. Oh, you know, that's where it's echoing. Brandon signing autographs behind the strip mall. All right, who are the what are you autographing? Or are you autographing Avery's artwork? All right, it looks like I caught up on all the messages. See, that's good. So did I cover everything? I covered the baby brumation thing twice. I doubled up on that, almost tripled up on it. I talked about gravid females. And then this one too, Gabriel, going back to this with a super chat. How hard is it to breed hognose start to end? Really, again, I'll cover that again, even though I did just briefly. Just having healthy, you know, not overfed, power raised hog, like, you know, power fed hognose. Brumating them to put them on a natural, you know, simulated cycle, so then that you can pair them afterwards, and you're putting their body into that natural state of wanting to, you know, produce egg follicles and breed for the females. You know, get them bred, feed them up, and get their egg boxes ready. And incubating hognose eggs is pretty simple. I don't even use an incubator. People ask me about incubators. I incubate them right in my reptile room and my snake room. During the summer, I definitely, you know, I have an air conditioner and heater. During the summer, the air conditioner is mainly, you know, kicking on from time to time. Heater is no longer, hasn't had to kick on in a while. But anyway, you know, I incubate the eggs anywhere between like 78 and 82. And it's okay to have like a ping pong range. I'd even sometimes let my room drop down to 76. It's okay for your hognose eggs to drop a little bit. You know, even if they drop down to 70 degrees, it's not going to hurt them. It's just going to slow down the metabolic rate. And I bury my eggs too. So when I put them in these Sterilite containers, I don't think I have one somewhere over here. You probably see it. Actually, I'll grab a clutch of eggs. So there it is. And you'll see you don't even see any hognose eggs in there because they're completely buried. They're like basically like in the center, like over here. And so them being buried, it's kind of naturally in the wild, they're burying their eggs. And then this also acts as an insulator. So if the temperature raises or drops, it's not going to affect the eggs very quickly because the soil around it is acting as an insulator. The soil has to drop slowly in temperature, and it's going to hold some of that temperature. And then even when it rises, it's going to maintain that cool, moist soil, or say moderate, you know, temperature moist soil is right around like 81 degrees in there. So if I get like a temp spike to 84 in my room, it's probably going to be more like 83 where the eggs are at. And it's going to be a gradual drop and then incline. So, you know, this is the way I incubate them, just because that's how hognose do it in the wild, or close to it. I mean, they're not laying them in Sterilite boxes, you know, or Rubbermaid containers. This is actually Ziploc. Average temp in a snake room, not incubator room. Well, they're kind of both the same, but during the summer, you know, I keep it between like, you know, like 77 and 82. A lot of times it's like right around like 81 in my main hognose breeding room. And then this room right here, I have it around like 83 right now. And I'll be dropping it a bit. I just had it spike a little bit because I had a bunch of hognose breeding here and they're all gravid. And now that they're all gravid, and, you know, I raised the temperature to essentially to help promote ovulation. Because once the temperature raises, their metabolic rate increases, and they've been bred and they have the nutrients, and then they have, you know, the proper temperatures to, you know, thermoregulate. Those warmer temperatures definitely spur on ovulation. All right, let me put this clutch back here. All right. Yeah, well, I don't know everything about genetics, but I think I know more than like a decent amount of people. I've been doing it for a long time. You would hope I know a good amount. I mean, I've developed a lot of lineages and I've, done a lot with genetics, so I think I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah, hogs on the horizon. Yeah. Sounds a lot like a heat spike is more dangerous than a bit of a drop. Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. Temperature spikes for a short period are going to be okay. Hognose eggs, especially when they're close to hatching, can they take a spike up to 87, 88 for yeah, sure. You don't want it to consistently sit at that, but if it did for a little bit, that's okay. Drops are more natural, and a drop to 70 isn't going to do anything. Even like 68, 70 degrees, that cool for a little bit. The metabolic rate and for the embryo is just going to slow way down. Do you have to re-moisten the soil during incubation, or does the container hold enough humidity to keep it all in? Do you put air holes in the egg container? Good question. Those egg containers, I just have like 2 small air holes, sometimes one. Sometimes I only do one. It doesn't really matter. They don't need a lot of airflow. And those boxes are already kind of like decent size. And, you can see there was like a good inch gap near the top. And I do have an air hole that's about the diameter of a toothpick. And sometimes I do 2. One's good enough. There's always some air circulation. I have fans going. And when you have that more minimal ventilation, I don't really ever have to add moisture. A lot of times I just stack up my hognose eggs and I just wait to see when they start hatching. And so that's the thing. I keep it simple as possible. So, incubators, to me, especially if you incubate a lot of eggs, they definitely add a little aspect of problems that can go wrong. Some people that I've heard of incubators that go off. That's like the one problem I hear reoccurring. Like, Jeff, my hog incubator went off and it went down to let's say 70 degrees for a day. They're like, oh, my hog those things okay. And I'm like, they're more than okay. I was like, what are 70 degrees? I'm like, they're fine. They could have been like that for 5 days and they're gonna be good. It's a casual 79. Yeah, it is. The 84 is a bit rough. I don't like it 84 in the room. Sometimes you'll get up to 83 here. That's about it. Then the air conditioners kick on, and sometimes I'm going to kick it down to 82. But see, these rooms are kind of large. I have fans going, so sometimes it'll be warm and cool spots almost in a room. Like one spot will be 83, and the other spot will be 81.5. But I'm going to knock it down a bit because I don't really need it ever going above 82 in here. Like right now, this room, like I said, it kind of sometimes gets up to 83, but I'm mainly doing that for the breeder females. Because actually, when I was breeding them, the females on the other side of these baby racks here, I didn't really have heat tape really going on them. And so I was just using room temperature. The backs of them, basically the backs of these baby racks were giving off enough heat where it was actually a hot spot of 84. And so then I was like, well, I don't actually have to, because that's about what my goal is when I'm breeding female hogs. I don't really want the hot spot high. You want their metabolic rate to still be a little on the slower side when you're first pairing them. Then once they're bred and they've had a few meals and they've bred, then you can raise it a bit. But hognose eggs don't really need excessive heat. The babies are definitely more important to have a warmer hot spot. No, 74 is not bad. 74 is yeah. Oh, for how warm your room is. Yeah, these rooms get a bit warm. The LG so that's a prelay shed. Good. How high is the spike temp for the 6? Hognose again, if it's spiked to 88, it's fine. Not saying it's not going to do anything, especially for a short bit. Hognose are pretty tolerant to heat though compared to other colubrids. In September, no, I'll be at Tinley in October, and then there's a new show going on in September. Bob Vu and Darian Drollinger from Morph Market are putting it on, and it's going to be in Atlanta, and I will be attending that. And that's in September, actually. And I don't know if you guys know Bob Vu. Very entertaining and fun ball python breeder. He does it right because you can see Bob. He's just trying to have fun. And, and he's putting on an expo, and he's, talked to a few breeders, and I'm friends with people. Bob and I aren't close friends or anything, but we talk at shows and stuff. And I like all the stuff he does and everything. And so I told him I'd be very happy to vend his show. That's when it starts warming up outside. Oh, you're going to have your first baby hognose this year. That's very cool. Are you pairing? So you're pairing stuff now. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Now, yeah, I know which one. Yeah. Congrats, Susie. Yeah, because I see you've been breeding. How many females do you have there, gravid? That's at Moonstone Plains. She's breeding hognose. It's her first season. Oh, the 4th gen Yeti bred. Oh, very, very nice. Okay, Michael, you're asking about that one. Yeah, for Bob Voos. I think he's going to be releasing it probably, I guess, maybe this summer. I'll ask him. I know he's kind of like organizing all the stuff now. It's not till September. We just started May. I mean, already May's like we're in the middle of it. We got June, July, August. Yeah, it's only like 4 months away, 4.5 months. So yeah, I guess we'll be hearing about it soon. And I'm gonna get another drink of water here. Should have got it. Yeah, White Plains too. Yeah, I'm vending White Plains, New York. Oh man, the place where they like to tax people. Yeah, I'll be there September 8th. So I got Atlanta Bob Voos show, and then Avery's White Plains show. Avery's putting on her own show, White Plains, for her birthday. Danielle's here, Pale Scales. How are you doing? I'm glad you could join. Are you predicting to make any new morph combos that haven't been produced yet this season? Yes. I have some that are about to lay. I have some eggs. The ones I might beat the person to, I don't know. I feel like they're going to beat me. I think they already have eggs. If they do beat me, it's only going to be like a week or two. And then aside from that, well, I'll just tell you guys. I should hatch out Super Arctic Skullface and Super Arctic Skullface Condo. And so that's a new dominant trait. And it'll be very interesting to see what those look like. And then the other ones, we'll wait till I see if I even hatch it because it's kind of lower odds. But I think I will with the amount of females I bred. But we'll see how it goes. I don't want to jinx it. Uh-oh, Victoria, what did you ask earlier in the chat? Was it about Moonstone Plains pairing? Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, hopefully she turns out to be for both. Yeah, she's just exactly. That's the thing. I'd just be so happy for her. I'm always happy for hognose eggs. All hogs are exciting. Well said. How about reptiles? Your Arctic Sable Conda is breeding right now too. Oh yeah, cool, Adam. Confirmation show. And what do you think about doing it for hognoses? I've kind of thought about something like that. I thought maybe reptile talks, even though that's not even my thing, but I thought, I was just like a guess. I was like, that might be cool if it turns into something like that. Or maybe have like a hognose breeding, like kind of like symposium get together somewhere in California, or like, Las Vegas is a cool area, but the problem with Las Vegas is just it's more of like a tourist area. It's not like a really big population. So a lot of people would have to be like coming from all over to go there. So somewhere like Anaheim would be a better location. Daytona is already kind of something like that. Oh, very cool, Chris. So you got a local breeder there in Wisconsin. Yeah, Avery's got her own White Plains show coming September 8th. And I will be there. September 8th. 8th. I'm having a hard time saying 8th for some reason. 8th. Producing hogs is exciting regardless of morph. I adore them all. I concur, hogs on the horizon. We'll see if the bubs have proven. If so, I have 1/8 chance of a super snows. Okay. Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, Super Arctic, Super Conda snows. That'd be pretty bad. Pretty rad. Jeff, is it weird seeing random people sell hognose at shows with your name on the deli lids? At a few hamburger shows, I've seen people market their hognose babies by putting your name on them. The first time I seen that was like at Daytona when I was like 26. And I remember I seen it. I was like, James, yeah, I looked at it. I looked at the guy. We made eye contact. And then the guy, it was weird. I made it like fucked up. Well, I wasn't expecting it because I couldn't remember. I was like, I don't think that's my snake. You know? Yeah, I mean, if it's like bloodline stuff like red albinos or LG stuff, I definitely say that definitely makes sense. You know, yeah, if the person got the Hognose from me or it has a lineage and they want to put my name on it, that's cool. Are you doing the Pomona show in the summer? I am now. That is confirmed. I don't know what Rami's calling it. He calls it the Reptile Super Show, but I've been calling it the Quadplex now because there's 4. He's doing all 4 of them. They're all Rami's. There's going to be a bird show, an aquatic, a plant, and reptile show. So all 4 buildings are being rented out, and there's going to be a bird show in one, plants in one, aquatics, and then the main Reptile Super Show. And people who get passes can go to all of them. So it's going to be this really big thing. And I'd like to go into every building. I don't think I'm going to have the time, but it's going to be that's going to be a very exciting show. Several. Vegas is awesome. Also biased. Yeah, Anthony, Vegas is for one, it's really, you get cheap flights going in and out of Vegas pretty much all the time easily. And there's it's a nice area to vacation. And like, you know, there's a lot of good restaurants. It's pretty cool, especially if you're staying indoor. Like, if you're like inside all the time and you're not getting really any like visual stimulation, and you've never really left your house for years, and you go there, it's pretty cool because it's like, whoa, all these lights and everything. And Vegas is like a pretty fun area. I'm not into like drinking really or anything like that, but you don't have to be to enjoy Vegas. Actually, I go to Vegas sometimes. Like, that's the only time I kind of really go on vacation anymore for a couple of days or a few days here and there. But that'd be a cool area to have a Hognose get together, a bunch of Hognose breeder get together. But you know, there's other places too, because like Vegas is just like it's a tourist area. So there's already a lot of people in California. So I think having a place or like a Hognose breeder get together, you know, Daytona's already kind of like that place from what I've heard. Although I haven't been to Daytona in like 6 years. I used to go every year. For the time I was 15 to 30, I went every year, and I haven't been back. This year I'm supposed to go back though. As you could probably tell, as I've been going to like every fucking reptile expo under the sun, or I've given it a break here for a bit. The last 3 in a row kind of like, it didn't kill me, but it's hard to catch up on everything. I didn't get back to everybody in my messages. It doesn't look good. How do you know or calculate the percent of stuff like LG and the extreme red? Yeah, it's a good question. Well, you have to have your founding base. If you have a founding base of peers or ones that are really close to peer and they're very high percent, really strong selectively line bred project, like let's say you have purple extreme red lines, from my own like albinos that I've been selectively line breeding for, you know, I guess it'd be like 15, 16 years now. I consider those essentially peer. They're not pure as pure purple line or pure extreme red, but as an animal that's selectively line bred to be super saturated with red pigmentation. This is a starting block of, let's say, if you want to call it like a James G. Red, like pure animal. And by pure, we're just going to denote it by this being a culmination of an animal that's been selectively line bred for many generations that's consistently producing extremely high quality animals. And then you can also have pure lines of animals, let's say like my pure original, you can just call them OG Lemon Ghost stuff, where it's my founding Lemon Ghost project stuff that I've selectively line bred for so many generations with minimal or no outcrossing, other than really outcrossing into animals that were from the established, you know, base project. And so when you have these animals that are pures, it's a little easier to denote these like animals because you could take one, it's a pure, so it's 100%. So when you outcross it immediately, those babies are half, they're 50%. And it's not like pos hets when it comes to polygenics. So the thing is, like, I've had, somebody recently is having problems with it, and they're saying that it's all a lie, and it's like, it's not. You just don't understand it. You know, you just say you don't understand it. Don't be a dick. So the thing is, you know, say if I take a pure Lemon Ghost, I outcross it, these 50%. You take a 50%, you breed it back to a pure, you got 75. Let's say you take a 50% and you breed it to like a 75, it's like 62.5. I'm not going to know all these percentages off the top of my head. A lot of times I just look at a calculator. I'll look at the pairing and I'm like, that's the percentage. That's what I'm going with. And it's a good way just to, you know, tell people like a quick, like right away, they don't have to ask you an in-depth back history of every breeding that occurred, because it's going to be like impossible to get from like most people. You know, and the thing is, even if you did get it from somebody, there was always a time before that where the stuff wasn't kept. So these percentages are a really good way just to keep track of the percentage of that original lineage. Now, is it going to be like 100% accurate? In some cases, no, because like sometimes these peers aren't actual peers. They're very, very close to peers. But you got to be making sure you're getting from a reliable source and just talk to the breeder and understand it. And that's one thing I'm going to be talking about the reptile talks too with polygenetics. Percentages, and then also, you know, generations. Because sometimes they'll say stuff's 4th or 5th generation. And that will basically be more like, say if I have like 75% LG sables and 75% LG het sables that are outcrossed, I breed them together. Now, they're still 75% because it's 75 to 75, but it's the next generation. So I'd call those the second generation of these 75% pairings. You know, generation is like not the only thing you want to rely on. Like, because like, you know, if I post like 4th generation LG, you know, Womacondas, I'll also denote that like, hey, these are like, let's sort of say example, 81.5%. You know, and so generations can give you a good starting point for a project that started, you know, let's say like LG Conda. And so if I'm on the 4th generation of taking an LG Conda, bringing it to an LG, raising that up, bringing it to an LG, raising that, bringing it to an LG, and then I'm producing the 4th generation, that's how, you know, I'm on the 4th generation. And you could also denote percentages. So percentages are better for high percent, you know, keeping track of projects. And then generations, I include that when it's a project involving the polygenic. So let's say an albino LG, Conda LG. Now, that's an aspect of a new gene, so you can denote generation. You could do just percentage too, though. You know, but I think both together are good. But if it's just like high percent LGs, you just could just do percent. You don't always have to do generation. But Jeff's Hognose mystery boxes have been a big gambling hit. Yeah, Sacramento, it went over really good. So Danielle, see, like there's one person at Phoenix, they were interested in a Hognose, and they were kind of like really, really paying attention to like, or really agonizing over like which one they wanted. They were being very precise. You know, they wanted to be very precise in what they chose, which makes sense. And the funny thing was, they were like going over these few choices for about 40 minutes, and then they opted for the mystery bag because the mystery was just so much to them. So Jeff Umbian, damn, I missed. What's this inside joke? Any recommendations how I could go about getting PJ Murphy course Annie chips? Contact your local feed mill. Feed mill, that's where I get mine from. My feed mill only delivers to like northwestern PA and northeastern Ohio. Do I gamble in Vegas? A little bit sometimes. Actually, I was going to do, it's not so much a mystery box. I'm going to do a gambling US ARC box, basically, where I'm going to sell certain Hognose. They're going to be auctions, and that money is going to go towards these Hognose snakes, or, you know, all the money is going towards these Hognose snakes for the auction. All that money is going to be donated to US ARC. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all that money and I'm going to go to Vegas and try to grow it very large. And if I lose all of it, I still have to donate that same amount of money. But if I'm able to make it, like, let's say I get like $2,500, I turn it into 10 grand, then US ARC gets 10 grand. And so basically it's an excuse for me to gamble, and I'm going to lose pretty much because it's a lot of my time, but I'm donating to US ARC, so it'll be fun. And then if I lose the money, then I still have to donate my own money. But then if I get to, a bunch of money and I win it, it's still going to US ARC. Is it easy to feel? Well, sometimes they get so swollen and gorged with the eggs that no, they're not easy to feel. But you could tell they're gravid because they got so much scale separation and they're so swollen. But sometimes you are able to palpate them. A lot of times I just kind of leave them alone though. I don't like pressing on their stomachs. I don't think you could do like you'd have to press really hard to cause problems, but I just want to leave them alone. Yeah, and that's like the Anaheim show is just basically a massive pet show. Colubrid Fest. That would be, yeah, call it Colubrid Fest. Maybe just not Hognose people, get other Colubrid people there too. You gamble on Hognose. Endless Hognose raffles. Yeah, and Crystal said 50 and 66% pos sets are gambling. Yeah, it's a fun way to gamble. That's why I do really well with pos set hognose. You know, a lot of projects I get that, you know, like I had a Super Arcticana, a 66% pos double hat coral. Turned out to be het albino and het lavender. Yeah, it's just like Crystal said, it's the best type of gambling. Like, you know, even if you get like a hog, let's say you get like an Arctic het sable, pos het toffee belly. If it doesn't turn out to be het toffee belly, are you really losing much? Probably not. You got a hog nose and you're breeding it, so you're doing good. Pure Jeffumbian. Oh, like Colombian. I get it. Pure Jeffumbian purple extreme red hog nose. Yeah. So the funny thing is, like my purple line extreme red. Well, because the funny thing is, I always say these are purple line extreme reds, but I kind of discount what I've done with them a little bit just by not including that these aren't just purple line extreme reds. They also have my own red phase lineage, which I started from red phase hognose that were first generation from wild caught that I got from Craig Trumbauer when I was 15 years old. And the story behind that was he had these nice reddish hognose that were Nebraska locality that he's selling at Daytona, you know, like 21 years ago. And I could never get red phase hognose, you know, and he had some available there. And so I bought them. And they're only like $75 each. And I bought some from them the following year too, like one or two. And I've been selectively line breeding those, you know, for like, you know, at that point, like 3-4 generations until I bred them into extreme reds. And then those extreme red times those reds I line bred from Craig Trumbauer. And I ended up incorporating those in the purple line. And anyway, you know, that was the reason that my red albinos did so well. I didn't just make them, they weren't extreme red to extreme red. You know, I incorporated other red lineages. And that gave them enough genetic diversification. And I was also able to selectively line breed them while diversifying their genetics, while not really, you know, taking any back steps. Because say if you take like a lemon ghost and you breed it to like a really nice, you know, high yellow wild type hognose that's like, let's say first generation from wild, let's say it's a really unusual yellow hognose. While it's a 50% LG, it's not an ordinary 50% because you're actually going to be doing something really good there because you're doing an outcross of something that is going to complement it. So breeding something to a polygenic that's complementing it versus not complementing it are two different things too. So that's one thing too. It's like, well, these percentages are very important. It's also very good to keep in mind that there are certain things like, you know, certain percentages, you know, you could have like an 81.5% LG that's just as good. Like I have 75% LGs that are friggin' fantastic. They look as good as like a lot of peers. You know, because sometimes when you outcross them, you actually incorporate something new into that lineage, and sometimes that incorporation can actually improve. So outcrossing is necessary. It's good. You know, if a lot of these projects, like let's say like Black Knight leopard geckos, it's pretty much impossible to keep them pure because they started with too small of a base. You know, I still have some pure OG lemon ghost stuff. Like these are pure peers. They're like 100%. Like if you have something that's been selectively line bred many generations back and is in a 90 percentile and you're getting results that are just as good as peers and they're basically close to peer, I call those are considered pure on the basis that they are that strong of a bloodline once again. And you can denote that they were a partial outcross at one time, but those animals, if done correctly, are going to have about the same amount of power. They could even have more power. Let's say if you stopped time and you selectively line bred a group of lemon ghosts that were only 75%ers for the next 20, 30 years, and then you brought those back in after those 25, 30 years to now present time, they're going to be better than the peers. But it's like, well, those aren't as high percentage. You know, and so a lot of it is just knowing that, you know, there isn't like a definitive, like, and like saying like, oh, a peer is always better all the time, and this isn't good. But when you outcross, you're not keeping track of percentages, and percentages start getting low, and you start getting like not the best results. That's the reason why you keep track of the percentages, so you can see what happened, you know, for the most part. Someone who like buys 50% pos sets. Yeah, you know what? Just make sure you're buying them from somebody that's honest. I bought some 66%ers. I got 5 and only one proved out. And I think they sold me. And we already went over that. I accidentally clicked that. Yeah, Pale Scales helped with the one mystery box. Crystal has been doing a great job. Can't wait for my OG LG pair to be ready. They're both getting more beautiful each shed. Yeah, Adam got pure OG. lemon ghosts. They're from the OG LG to OG LG. And I remember you said you posted them and somebody says, that's not a pure lemon ghost. I'm like, they are. I mean, I don't know. Like, why the fuck would I need to lie about it? I created. Why would I lie about any of this stuff? It's like, what would be the point? There'd be no point to it. Oh, I'm going to outcross them and make them shittier. I've been working on for 20 years, but I'm going to make them shittier and then say they're pure when it doesn't even make sense. Being a ball python person with zero Colibrid experience, it was very cool finding someone that bred hogs by me. Chad Fuchs spent hours there looking at snakes. Definitely got me hooked on Colubrids. That's cool, Chris. Yeah, seeing hognose and like hognose are a lot of fun. You know, you start keeping hognose, you're gonna have a hard time liking other snakes unless you gotta be one stubborn son of a bitch. I asked you how pure the male pure I have, and you said 20 years pure. Yeah, yeah, 20 years pretty much. And there's some people, there is no such thing as a pure because you had to start with a group of animals. They weren't just one pair, and it's like, listen, you just aren't getting it. You're looking at it from too pessimistic of a perspective. You're looking at it for like trying to nitpick things, or you're going to find, if you want to look at polygenics and these percentages and say there's something wrong with it, and if you want there to be something wrong with it, go ahead. But it just means you don't understand the shit. Curd is friggin' sparkles. Amazon sells the coarse chips too. Yeah, they do. You just gotta pay more for shipping. Yeah, about $40 a bag. At least they'll come to your door. The gamble donation, yeah, I'm gonna call it the U.S. ARC Gambling Addicts. I called it a quad because I kept saying quadplex for Rami's show, so I was calling it a quad something in the Discord. And so so I have to make sense of it being called like quad. So what I'm gonna do is whatever money I raise for the hognose, I'm gonna divide it into 4 bets, and I'm gonna do maybe 4 roulettes, and if I'm able to like double the money, then I'm going to go to blackjack and immediately aggressively play blackjack with using my limited blackjack skills and what to do and what not to do. Like, yeah, I know you split 3s against a 5 and dumb stuff like that, and I'm going to try to get as much money as possible. Maybe it'd be fun to get like a massive amount of money. I don't think that's going to happen though, but I'm not keeping it. And we're going to try to record it. The casinos never want you recording stuff. So I'll have to have somebody standing behind me and recording it. And I'll ask them, can we record this? They're like, no, fine. You're not getting my money. Then we'll go somewhere else. You know, I'm probably going to lose it all anyway. It's like, well, they don't care. It's not that much money. They got all kinds of gambling addicts in there. So halfway through the spin switch to red. Who never gambles, I approve of this gambling idea. It's a Vegas logo who never gambles. That's funny. What's the most crowded expo? It's probably going to be the Quadplex this fucking June. It's going to be insane. It's going to be impossible to walk around. That's how many people are going to be there. They're going to be trying to swap people away from buying hogs. There's going to be so many people. Can I buy this? I got you. This person's trying to buy it. Get away. I don't think it's going to be like that, but it'll still be good. Coolbird Fest is actually something Coolbird and Coolbird Radio has been talking about. Just curious if anyone else heard about it. I have not heard about it. And there's so many podcasts. Like I don't even listen to my own podcast. I'm only listening to this one because I'm here. I listened to Dave and MJ's yesterday, and that's a rare thing. Like I've been doing so much stuff, traveling and trying to do other things. I got to take care of all these animals. Tinley's very crowded. The Coolerbred Fest would be very fun. What about Hognose Hullabaloo? And everybody goes to Vegas. And we meet there, and we bring our coolest hognose. Maybe we do some sales, and then a few people egg other people on to gamble. And then when they lose their money, start accusing the other person of pushing them to gamble, and it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of arguments, losing money, going out to eat, swimming. I don't know though. Like I've been going to these, hotels, and I'm like, what time's the pool close? They're like midnight. I'm like, you stay open at midnight? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, that's awesome because I can go night swimming pretty much, and there's nobody there. Meanwhile, you go to Vegas, it's like the pool closes at 8 p.m. I thought this was the city of sin, and you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. You guys all what stays here. You sure have a lot of rules about the pools and stuff. I guess there's a bunch of alcoholics and stuff, but whatever. They have a breathalyzer. Well, I don't want to put my mouth on it anyway. So maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe not. No Vegas. I don't know. Vegas is pretty fun. Let's go to Vegas. Do you see a lot of genetic depression in hognose snakes? What do you mean? Clarify. You mean like genetic disorders in an individual snake, and the snake doesn't thrive as well because of a culmination of a bunch of hereditary traits put together, making a Frankenstein of a hognose? Now, with bug-eyed animals, yeah, maybe a little bit. But overall, no, hognoses are pretty good. Pink pastels, every now and then, equilibrium issues, but I produced 50 and I haven't seen it yet. Talk about the pure OGs again. Jeff has no pure LGs ever, duh. He probably just made them up. Fake morph. Very accurate, Avery. Very accurate. Everything's smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. All edited. They're not even yellow. Definitely a fake morph. Duh. Fake morph. Fake morph, sure. Who is your favorite hognose breeder? You know, it's like, because next time I'm going to have a guest. This time, just because I got back for the show, I'm going to be doing the reptile talks and everything. I was like, I just don't have time to get like a guest. And, you know, sometimes people are busy. And so I always tell Crystal, I'm like, hey, Crystal, I get to interview my favorite breeder again. I was like, myself. And she just looks at me. She doesn't think it's funny anymore. Why isn't it snakes at sunset? No, but really, who is your favorite? Well, snakes at sunset didn't even like breed anything. I think he breeds some tortoises maybe, but he like buys and resells all of his friggin' hognose snakes. And, you know, I get all these people messaging me like a year and a half ago. Like, I got like 8, 10, 12 people within like a 6-8 month period. Like, I got this hognose snake. It's all fucked up. And me doing this, they're typing. They're typing to me. Jeff, this hognose is all, it has diarrhea. It has equilibrium issue. I'm like, where'd you get this snake? And they're like, snakes at sunset. So I started making memes and posting on my stories about snakes at sunset and everything. It didn't take much time. Snakes at sunset, he messaged me. He goes, hey, man, what's your problem? I was like, my problem is people keep coming to me and they're having issues with their hognose and they bought them from you. And you're not doing anything about it. It doesn't seem like, because these people are saying you're not getting back to them. You're not making it right. And, you know, these things are suffering from mite spray exposure. So I started talking about that. He goes, yeah, I already know what to do. If you already know what to do, then why did an employee do it? So the old, oh, my employee did this. It's like, you know what? So no, everything I talked about, he said he's already doing. Everything was perfect. Apparently, this guy knows more than me. I don't know why he doesn't breed hognose. He'd be ultra successful then. But, you know, I'll just leave it at that. I could go on more unless Mike Barreras wants to come on here and talk. Sometimes I see him at shows. He doesn't really want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to him either. He can talk to me. I'll talk to him. But it's not like, I don't know. It's like, you know, and it's one of those things like, most people, like, I've seen a lot of things in the reptile community. You know, most people, for the most part, want to do good. Nobody wants to be a piece of shit. You know, nobody wants to do things bad. Nobody wants to lose money, and that's one thing I see. I see a lot of people sell sick animals. I've seen that so many times in the gecko hobby. So many people, and sometimes people, I'd say they're mostly like, these people would be considered good people. It's just a very common trait for people. They had this money invested, and they want to get out of it, and they don't want to lose money, and so they sell stuff that's sick. It's a very small percent of people that kind of man up or woman up or human up, try to make it 2024 appropriate. They human up and they, you know, say, hey, these animals are sick. You know, what do I do? And because it really, you know, it's a tough thing. A lot of people, they're afraid to get smeared. They're afraid to get, you know, made fun of. It can be very embarrassing. It happens to a lot of people. I've had sick animals. They have quarantine sections wiped out and stuff. And it's something that people are usually urged not to speak about, because it's funny. Through these experiences, I've actually learned a lot about reptile health in quarantine. But sometimes when people say, like, oh, I've had a sick snake and stuff, then it's like, oh, well, yeah, sick snake, I don't want to buy from you. It's like, well, no, this is very common. Pretty much anybody who's had long-term experience is gonna experience it. You buy enough snakes, you buy hognose snakes from like 8 or 10 breeders, you're gonna most likely experience it. It's gonna be very hard for you not to. But who's my favorite hognose breeder besides me? Oh, you're killing me. Probably Crystal, because she's my girlfriend. She's bred hognose. There you go. I wonder how. And she's done. And here's the thing: she produced like pink pastels and other stuff. And she goes, "Well, I really like this one. It's pretty, so I kept it." And she really likes her snakes. And she's like, "Well, this guy really wanted a pink pastel, and he's another breeder." And she's like, "He's really nice, so I gave him a good deal." And then this person was a friend of mine, so I gave him one of my nice snakes. So Crystal just likes it for the sake of hognose snakes, and she's very very genuine. Do you think the Swiss possible Arctic? Yeah, the morph market is probably Arctic. Yeah, because it's weird. And the only time I hatch these weird light Swiss chocolates, they're from these Arctic pairings. But you know, I haven't raised up like I have one of those ones about to breed. Next year I'll have like 3 of those to breed, and I'm going to see if there are. I think they are. Jeff B. Adventuring. Yeah, I do. I did fall out of a tree. I still think I have a scrape. I was like bleeding. I showed Crystal. I'm like, man, that kind of hurt. She goes, oh, your back's fine. Nothing happened. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, guess I'm being a bitch. I was like, it's all like burning behind my ear. Like my ear got scuffed up and shit. So like 2 days later, I pick up my shirt. There's like a big scab. I'm like, well, you thought you said it wasn't that bad. And she's like, it wasn't. She goes, that's abrasion. She goes, that's just like ash. I'm like, that's not ash. Because the tree I fell down was like a burnt one. Is a burnt redwood, and so there's like all this black soot, and then I got in my eyes, you know, some of the debris from the burnt tree, and my eye was all fucking irritated. Climbing trees is fun though; it's good exercising too. Hognose hullabaloo, I have been up to that. All right, so we're at 7, and we're gonna catch up here. You can't lose your money gambling if you spend it all on hognose things. That is true. If you invest in possible het Swiss, like you could buy 20 Posset Swiss, a few hets. And if you bred them and still hit terrible odds, you would still eventually make your money back as long as you stuck with it. You know, hognose are such a great investment just because people like hognose are good. I'm not trying to sell people on like buy hognose for investing. Like I don't even want to like, do it because it's fun. This is fun. So I do mystery boxes where I go to these shows, fall out of trees, you know, talk to other hognose people. You know, I got to hang out with Pale Scales, made a really good friend. I got to go to Steve Angeley's, see his awesome collection, and he had this little grumpy chihuahua named Susie that was walking around, and it was like, you know, this place is really cool. He's got an amazing terrapin collection. Had an awesome conversation in the podcast with Steve. Salt Lake was a lot of fun. You know, even driving, because the thing is like these rental vehicles, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't own this vehicle, so it doesn't matter if I'm going down steep hills or whatever. And then I did that dumb thing. They scammed me. I fell for it. My mom's like, why would you even do that? I'm like, well, I did it. Who cares? I paid for the whole tank of gas, so you're supposed to bring it close to the empty. Well, I was like, this is a Jeep. These things burn gas, right? This fucking thing wouldn't run out of gas. I mean, this thing must have like a 30-gallon tank. So then wherever I'd go, I'd just floor it to wherever I was going, like, you know, like not continuously, but from any start point, I would floor it. And then I'd hit my brakes and then floor it again. And trying to burn up gas, man, it didn't really work that well. Yeah, Brandon's gonna. I'm gonna have I want Brandon as a guest. We got to do Prismatic Reptiles, Joel. I got to talk to him. And then I have Darian Drolinger, too, that said he would. I got to catch up with him. I might do Darian next because I want to talk about Morph Market. And I want to have a good Morph Market, you know, Darian podcast. I'm going to ask him about, like, all the things you're not allowed to say, what can get you canceled, what can't get you canceled, who he wants to cancel next, who's next on the chopping block of Morph Market. Am I next on a chopping block? Is he watching my page? You know, what's going on? How does he feel about Bob Clark right now? What's going on with the show with Bob Vu? You know, a bunch of fun stuff. We're going to do a podcast. Brandon's get Kevin on sometimes. I'll get Kevin on. His name is Chris Good Dude. Who's Chris? I missed that part. I don't know who Chris is. Yeah, Kevin, he's like, well, the one thing that's cool about Kevin, I'd like to ask about, he do Richard Evans pretty well. And I've talked to Richard Evans like a few times, and I bought hognose from him. But Richard Evans is like the biggest reason why the hognose community is where it's at today. You know, he got the first albino hognose. He traded it for like pythons and boas that he had at his shop. He got the first pink pastel, and he hatched out the first hypos, and he was the reason behind a lot of Western hognose being put into the pet trade. You need to work at 7 a.m. Good night, Avery. Some people like being pieces of shit. That's called being a piece of shit. I guess some people probably like it, but who wants to be known for that? I don't know. But I guess the best thing is not to want to be really known for really anything. Just do good, because it's like, here's the thing. It's always weird why people are like, what the fuck is the point of lying? You got to remember a bunch of stuff, and then things aren't going to go. Just like, what's the problem with being honest? Like, being honest is like the best. Sometimes it does get you into trouble, though. Sometimes people take advantage of you. That's like the only negative. But it ends up working out in the long run. Like, you know, it's a good way to be. It's just like, I think it's just like society code. It's like, if you're lying all the time, you're just going to, people are not going to want to be around you. You're not going to get away with it. You don't get away. I've known so many people that lie, and they never get away with it. It's like, what's the point? I mean, you might get away with it a couple times. Since when, how am I going to listen to Jeff on full blast if you're trying to sleep? I could probably sleep with Jeff, but you could fall asleep with like me talking. Who couldn't? I don't like this PPA for health issues. We'll see, Brandon. Like, I've produced 50 so far, and they've all been pretty good. I haven't had any equilibrium issues. The 1 year I did have some that had that weird shedding issue, and I was like, if this happens again, I'm done breeding them. And then this season it didn't happen, so I'm like, of course that would. And I produced more this season. And the funny thing is, I did more what would be considered inbreeding this season than I did last season. Last season, ones where I had issues, they were more outcrossed. And they were like a more diversified outcrossed end product for the for the visual pink pastel. This year, I took pink pastels and bred them back to their parents, and I had zero problems. Yeah, PPAs. I wouldn't go ham into paint on them. Like, I'm keeping back a few more after this season. I'm like, all right. But if there's any issues that arise, I'm gonna can them, and I'll talk about it too if it occurs. But this year, it's like, I was like, this is going to be like, if there's any problems, and then there was no problems. They did very, very well. And I haven't had any shedding issues, and they look pretty good. Because the very first year I bred lavenders, I had some that had shedding issues, and it never arose. So we'll see. But pink pastels have been known to have equilibrium issues. Ones I used to deliver and ship a lot to overseas shows when I was doing more of that when I was younger, like in my early 20s. The first time I did it was I was like 19. But I remember there were some pink pastels that were pre-sold. I remember people then were selling like a lot of female pink pastels versus males, probably because they knew they weren't doing it. They were less likely to produce, so they were more inclined to sell their females. But a lot of these pink pastel females had like these short turnip-looking tails, and I haven't had anything like that. How long do you quarantine a hognose before you can say, yeah, it's safe for my collection? Yes, that's like 7 minutes ago. Hopefully you're still here, Pale Scales, but this is a generalized question that's good for everybody. Well, as a lot of people know, I do indefinite quarantining. If I get a new hognose, it stays in my quarantine section forever. I have a designated area for other hognose I get from other people. If I get hognose, generally I like to get a decent amount so they can all be in one rack from one breeder. And I breed them, and only the hatched babies go into my main collection. Now, if you have a smaller collection and you want to do multiple tests and decide if you want to put them in your own collection, that's, that person's, prerogative, or that's their own personal choice. But if you have a big collection, I definitely would never. You'd have to have. I don't have that much trust. I've seen too many people. Like, I've even had it with my leopard geckos. Person promises me that their leopard geckos are clean. I only bought from you, and then here they were lying. So yeah, PPA, for whatever reason, the outcrossing, they were originally pretty inbred. Being inbred can exacerbate some problems. But that's one thing I don't like, though, because, like, say if there is an issue with a project, everybody's first thing that they run to is saying it's inbred. Now, most of this stuff, shouldn't have issues if it's mildly inbred. If it's like grossly inbred, of course, there's going to be problems. But pink pastel and albino, I'd say at first were in hypos too, because the hognose community is a lot smaller. People were breeding these and making hats, and people would buy the hats or visuals and hats, breed them together, and then sell the babies a lot of times in pairs. And people were just buying them and breeding them. So there's a lot of like this inbreeding just because of the mentality of small collection hognose breeding back in the late 90s and early 2000s. From what I've observed and over the years, because these animals being outcrossed now, pink pastels are definitely doing better. I haven't seen any of the turnip tails. None of the females I've ever hatched had this turnip tail look. But I haven't had any equilibrium issued ones yet. But I did have ones with shedding issues. Yeah, the forever quarantine. You thought it was ash. Yeah. How about that? Fucking blood. It was dry blood on my back. it was like a surface abrasion. It wasn't bad. It's probably still there. It's like, it wasn't bad at all. It was like, I was being a whiny bitch. I want to get a mystery box next year. Do it. They're fun. Even overseas, people can participate. And you can even get entered in the raffle. If you win the raffle, it's going to be a pain in the ass, but you're just going to have to pay the shipping fee, and it won't be bad because you're going to win something really good. What's the shipping fee going to be, like $200? And then if they want to charge you tax on it, it should be zero tax. So I'm like, it was a freebie. You want it. Taxless. Yeah, we would all like you to ask him questions. Kevin? Blue tongue morphs is from Australia. Yeah, you probably know Dave. Dave breeds northern blue tongues. How you doing? I want to get Ben's balls on a podcast. I would love to have. His real name's like, I don't know. He gave me some other person's name. It looks like it was Chinese. Anyway, Ben's ball. I am Ben's balls, apparently. On the Hinged and Untamed podcast. Yeah, Ben's balls would be fucking hysterical. Yeah, the Darian podcast will be fun. I want to ask Darian about what. I'll ask him like, what slurs are we allowed to use? I know he's gonna be like none. I'm like none. Who's gonna be allowed on Morph Market in the next 10 years? And then we're gonna have to ask him like, who's next on the chopping block? If I keep asking enough questions, I'll be on it. Those would be Jeff and Avery according to this Facebook. Oh yeah, according for Ben's friggin' balls. Ben's ball supply, Ben's testicular supply. Jeff and Kevin are both brats, though. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm that much of a brat. I don't know. Brats get everything whenever I get my way. You probably think I do. I can never get my way. You gotta see Crystal. You see the shit that she watches me go through all the time. It's fucking bullshit. Speaking of hypos, will you speak on Evans and Dutch? Evans and Dutch, same thing. There you go. It's covered. But it's a good one because that was because people would call what happened. The confusion there was caramels popped up out of breeding hypos in Mikkel Klumper's collection. And so they kind of referred to those hypos since the caramel came out of there thinking that they were something different, and they called them Dutch hypos. But they were actually Evans hypos. They're the same thing. Well said. How about reptiles? We both saw it firsthand, and I was like, how does that even happen? Hullabaloo. Hullabaloo is a good word. And also rigmarole. Hullabaloo and rigmarole. Those are good ones. Hullabaloo that'd be a good. I'm gonna use that. You still use that. I'm gonna use his name for something though. Let's be quiet. Okay, you can't describe it like their skin just become loose for good. What the fuck are you talking about there? See, I need to stay more relevant because that's 6 minutes ago. Ever plan on doing overseas again or worth it? I got food poisoning so bad the one time. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to, I don't know. Japan's fun. If you ever go to Japan, but I might go to, like, Germany. I was invited to China. I don't want to go to China. I'll probably get, like, arrested or something. I don't know. I'm not going there. Is this all trade rich wild caught hoggers for ball python bows back in the day? That's really cool. Yeah, because he had a shot. And the funny thing is, I'd hear from people like Norm Dam. He would get captive hatched baby hognose from Richard Evans for like $15 and $20 wholesale. And he goes, sometimes they would still be in the eggs. Like they'd be pipped. He goes, there'd be a clutch of eggs, babies would be hatching, babies would be hatched out, and some would still be pipped. And he said they'd be in like milk cartons and Pringles cans. Box fort. You want box fort now? Kevin, since you do, yeah, Richard Evans, that's a good one. Yeah, he knew Richard Evans pretty well. They both, because that's the beginning of the hognose community started in Lubbock, Texas. There's a lot of hognose in Lubbock. Plains hognose. Kevin's got a lot of insight in the history of it too. He does. He's right from the heartland of where hognose started. Maybe brats wasn't the right word. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but that's like an insulting word, Trinity. Most people don't like to be called brats. I don't know if you know about that. What are you going to call us next? Dumb fucks? You and Kevin should be both on. Although you're both dumb fucks. She's like, well, maybe you aren't dumb fucks. Maybe that's not the right word. All right, I'll take them. Kevin is very kind. All right, Kevin's very kind, but I'll ask him a question and he'll give me a strange answer. Same with Jeff. Oh, what the fuck? That's so generalized. What's the strange answer? How is my answer not going to be strange? Like, what do you take a screenshot, Trinity? I got to take my strangest answer. Well, you know what? I did say some strange stuff to her. She asked me if her hognose was gravid, and I said it was in toad mode. And then she asked me what toad mode was, and I looked, and I seen it, and I was about to respond, but then something happened, and I started doing something else, and I forgot to respond. So then Crystal walks over to me like 30 minutes later, and she goes, Trinity's messaging me. She wants to know what toad mode means. I'm like, oh. I was like, it means she's gravid because, you know, toads are short and fat and round. So when the hognose get gravid, they're short, stout, and fat. Toad mode. Brando, stop. You're playing Zelda with Bug. That's pretty fun. Toad mode is gravid female hognose snakes. That was like, back like 3 years ago, I went on this like long story rant thing for a few weeks where everything was in toad mode. And there was some pretty good memes there. And Trinity, that was probably right shortly after that, probably like a few months later, is probably when Trinity started getting into hognose and started following me at that point. So I'm going to tell Kevin, I was like, Kevin, Trinity said that you and I are both brats and dumb fucks, and she really wants to see us talk. What do you say? How about we do a podcast? I was like, Trinity's really hyping us up with these. And she says she didn't know that these were insults, but let's do this podcast. I went to high school with Richard's daughter, got a lot of random stuff. What about this guy? Oh, the Ugly Farm. Interesting name. We could have the Ugly Farm on, too. This guy is like those Richard Evans, like kids and everything. Is Richard Evans still alive? What about Richard Evans? We need to talk to this guy. I hope he's still alive. Where the fuck is he? And why did he, he retired? This guy retired. He even got out of breeding hogs. This guy, retired in life. That's why I was like, you're getting rid of hogs. Like, what are you dying? It's like, maybe you're dead. Like, if I didn't have Hognose, just assume I'm fucking dead. Just assume I'm dead. Just bury me. Even if I'm breathing, just throw the dirt on. Oh, what about Richard Evans' daughter? Yeah, she probably don't care about Hognose. Here for the hog beans. It's a bad spot because it's just me talking. But, I'm on Instagram with it. I got a new one I got to post. It's not that good, but I'm going to post it anyway. He still has the store. How the fuck does he still have the store? He's still there. I never said dumb fucks. Yeah, I know, but it would have been funny if you did. Can you just say it? Because I like that. That'd be funny if you did. I know. I'm not lying. It's just a joke. But anyway, can you say that, Trinity, so I can say it's true? Because it's very funny. Not pregnant. I stay in token mode. Not pregnant, just round. You know what? When I used to do bass tournaments, I started doing bass tournaments, and I started hearing all these dudes refer to their largemouth as toads. Like right away, oh, that's a toad. And right away, I knew they're talking about short, fat ones. And they call them footballs because when they catch their mouth goes, they're in the shape of a foot. They look like the shape of a football. And so they're calling them toads. And I thought that was so funny because I'd hear toad. And because I'm like, none of these people are into amphibians and reptiles. They're just fishermen. Some of these guys are real fishermen, missing teeth. And they talk about catfishing all the time. And they do these bass tournaments. And they had some stories. I used to do bass tournaments and stuff with my dad. They're a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. So wish we would do those sometimes. Does Katie like to hang out in the snake room with you? I don't really bring her over here too much. If I brought her, I should bring her here. She has to be supervised, and she'll walk around and she'll look at stuff. I just don't really want her touching stuff or getting into things because she'll try to attack animals. Not hard, but she just have to be supervised. Every now and then she comes in here. I remember I was doing one live and she got into the room. You just seen this black cat walk past, but I just have to be careful with her. I did bass tournaments, yeah. Oh, I'm actually pretty good at bass fishing, believe it or not. I'd come in second and third a lot. Well, with my dad, but I always looked at fishing a lot like herping. So I'd want to try to figure out where the bass were, and then I'd try to use lure presentations that other people wouldn't use. I try to just find ways to tweak things. So I wasn't the best, but my dad and I were very consistent. And my dad was a very slow fisherman. He fished very methodically and very slowly. See, a lot of people aren't patient. So my dad would a lot of times end up catching some pretty big bass. And then especially during days where it's a little tougher bite and the bass were more slow and they had a shorter strike zone or they're more lethargic, my dad would do really good. But that's the one thing our weakness was. And my weakness, I'm not very versatile. I'm a little versatile with trying to find where they're at, but I like to use plastics and finesse and swim baits. I'm not a really big hard bait guy. Out of Hognose, I'm breeding pretty much from what I know. And that's another top breeder I'd actually pick too. I'd say Richard Evans just simply because he started the community, aside from Crystal and myself. That's a question that was asked a bazillion years ago. But anyway, you have people hold your Hognose down while you put a towel over its head and pour water in its mouth while you interrogate it for intel. That would be a good meme, I guess. Out of Hognose, I'm breeding pretty much from what I know. I was in the shop a couple months back, and he was showing me a couple of pair of bamboo roots he's excited about. So Richard Evans is alive and well with this shop, not owning Hognose snakes. What the fuck is going on? Blackbeak was being real skanky to me last week, and he peed all over himself, so I took him and ran him under the sink, and he immediately fixed his attitude. Very good. All right, so what Brandon said here actually works. Waterboard your snakes for love. This is what goes through my brain. I'm on YouTube. I don't have to be professional. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Let's have fun. If I just real straight all the time, I like lemon goats because they accelerate the pigmentation of projects that you breed them into. and this is how I do percentages. It's like, yeah, you know, it's like, you know, even earlier, I was just giving out all kinds of information, and I was just like rambling about stuff and thoughts, and it's like, it's not as fun. So this is more fun clicking on these and finding out that Richard Evans doesn't even, like, that's like blasphemy. Like, I want to fucking fly out to his place. You probably don't remember me. I don't think so. I talked to him like 3 or 4 times when he'd be at Daytona, but he stopped doing Daytona when I was like 18 or 19. He said he's retiring. And I remember then he showed up a couple years later, and he just had pictures, like printed out pictures of anaconda hognose, and he had normal siblings that he was selling. And he was selling them on, like, there's like this guy, Paul Farmer, and he was involved in the first anaconda. Like, Brent's the, you know, like the originator, but I remember I even sent a money order for my first anaconda. I went to Paul Farmer, and I forget, it's like, he's like related to like Brent somehow. I don't know. All this weird stuff. The best advice Kevin gave me recently is to waterboard the hognose. Well, a lot of times you put stuff under cold water, that lowers the metabolic rate very quickly. And how electric to do bass tournaments? I don't know. I'd say anti-electric, really, because like I feel like it's a bit hillbilly-ish. If somebody, like, you know, I think it could be interpreted that way. I don't think it is, because a lot of, like, you do bass fishing, actually it kind of is electric. Electric trolling motors, electric fish finders. You know, you got your fucking truck that you're pulling your trailer with. What we got here? If they wear gloves, if they wash their hands really well. I don't want somebody to try to trick and deceive me, though, and try to purposely infect anything. So I go through a protocol. Is Daytona any good? Used to be great. Hogs have done the horizon, loves Daytona. You know, I went every year from the time I was 15 to 30. I'm going to be 37 soon, and I'm supposed to go back this year. So it's been like 7 years. But it's a lot of fun, and I like that area. So that's why I want to go back. Whenever you get him on for a hero history episode, we should. Yeah, somebody needs to get this guy on here. Like, I don't want to. I'm going to call his shop. Yeah, I'll tell you what, top water in like high weedy areas. You know what I like doing a lot, Chris? Is my dad actually always hated it. I like flipping and pitching stuff in the thick cover and everything, especially if I know if it's like a lake that hasn't been fished like that. I don't really like hard baits that much. Top water's fun. I like wacky rigs, and I like flipping and pitching, or what I'd refer to as like, well, you know, like finesse fishing. I like finesse fishing off rocks. Sneaking lakes are fun. I used to sneak into lakes all the time when I was younger, especially with my cousin Ryan in Florida. Man, we'd have some really good. There's some really fun developments, because they were like, it's like rich neighborhoods that were gated, and we just jump over the gates at night and go and fish their lakes. Single spot adult super arctics. Can we see some single spot adult super arctics? Do any change 360 drastically in color for bait? Well, I think you meant 180, but I mean, yeah, once they've had a few sheds, they don't change that much. When is your birthday? What are your plans? My birthday is then. It is in May of the 24th. I don't really ever do anything for my birthday. Usually, yeah. Like, we go out to, like, actually, Avery's been really nice. Like, the last time she paid at King of Hogs, and it was my birthday weekend, we went herping, and then my best friend Andrew and her, we went to the Cheesecake Factory, and that was a very nice time. We trespass for bass all the time. That's funny. Yeah, so yeah, usually I just like keep like go out herping or whatever. You know, try to take the day off to a degree. A lot of times I'm still you know, collecting hognose eggs around that time. Flounder gigging. So basically you look for flounders in gel water and you gig them. They are good for eating. Yeah, last time we did cheesecake. I usually come up, but this year I'll just be in spirit. Yeah, this year she will not be here for my birthday. So this year, Crystal and I are probably going to go herping. Crystal will just like do whatever I'm doing that day, and she'll just have to like listen to me say dumb stuff. And this person's looking for a super Arctic single spot female. I didn't mean a super Arctic anaconda with blotches down the back. So I'm going to get that. I'll be right back. I think that's a good question, though, because they want to see a super Arctic Conda that's kind of like, you know, see how it's evolved from the time it's a baby. But see, that's the thing. Super Arctics are so variable. Like, I have a super Arctic Conda over in the other room that has really nice black spots. And actually, Danielle just got one for me that has really nice dark black spots. It's pretty dirty and has high black sides. And then Avery got one with those blue translucent sides. So you have a lot of variability in super Arctics and super Arctic anacondas. All right. So this is a super Arctic anaconda. Single spot down the back. Single spots down the back. Small adult female. Look at that face. What the fuck is Richard Evans doing with bamboo rat snakes? And he can go out and get these. What is Richard Evans? He still has the shop. This is like, I'm glad he's alive. Little spots. Why isn't he on a podcast with Kevin? I'm going to call this guy. Why isn't that's who he should be doing a podcast with? Single spots down the back, as requested. Sound effects. Oop. So there she is. Nice solid black belly. She's a very nice snake because she's a hognose. So, you know, that's why she is so great. And then there you have it. Spots down the center. I hope she's everything you wanted her to be, because she is. All right. Smudge is the best hog. Bold claim. She is cute. Show is Luigi. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Luigi's back in his enclosure. What's her name? Her name is Single Spot Down to Center. Can you show the Swiss possible Arctic guy in Morph Market? Yeah. I think so. I think it's that one. I have to look at the ID. I don't have the ID off the top. Does anybody have the ID on that? Can we get an ID? Luigi's pretty good. With that one, I know, right? Because that Hognose I'll never forget. I could have like brain damage. I'd still remember Luigi. But that Swiss possible Arctic, I'm pretty sure it's that dude. I think this is him. Pretty sure this is the guy. J7. Yeah, this is him. Can you name one of your Hognose snakes? Gizmo, in memory of Corey. He always tried to get me to name all of the reptiles Gizmo. Gizmo or Gizmo. I missed that silly man. That's from Leviathan. Yeah. Is Gizmo a unisex? I think it is. Yeah, that's like unisex. Swiss Army Swiss Army knife. That's supposed to be Swiss Army knife, but anyway, yeah, I can name one Gizmo. It'd have to be. I think I have a hognose I can name Gizmo. Yeah, I already have it made up. Oh, Gabriel Guzman just gave me $5. Do you have a special hog, one that you'll keep forever? Yeah, proud. Like I have a few of those. You know, I try because since these are, you know, my breeding projects, you know, change and everything. It's like I can't keep everything like indefinitely. I mean, you can, but I don't with all of mine. But there are certain ones that I'm like, yeah, string cheese. You know, I got some of these like, you know, trying to think who I got that like, you know, string cheese. I have my one moonbeam male that I like a lot. I want Super Arctic Lucy isn't going anywhere. You know, I have this other like Swiss combo male All right, this guy's calmed down finally. I have a couple OG lemons that I'll probably like hang on to, like, you know, forever and stuff. But, you know, I've had some hognose I've had for like 12 years. Like, I had these albino males, and, you know, they bred and they're really nice snakes. And I'm like, you know, these things aren't like, I'm not interacting with them all the time. I'm like, and somebody wants a really nice pet hognose, why not sell it as a pet? You know, he'll still breed. He could still breed. I'd say the thing probably lived in either, you know, another 8-10 years, no problem. So I tell people, like, yeah, this guy's 12 years. He's very nice, you know, and that person's going to enjoy that snake. But yeah, I got some that, you know, I'm never going to sell. But it kind of just like happens, you know what I mean? It's not like something I just make up my mind one day. Like, I hatched this hognose, I'm never going to sell it. You know, I have ones I'm like, this one's really cool, I'm going to keep it as a holdback. I really like this hognose. You know, I guess I had like string cheeses like that, you know, because that's one I worked really hard to, like, that snake should have died probably. That was a very hard one to get going. All right, so there's Swiss Army knife. Lots of nice greens in there. A lot of nice light greens in there. And we got the dark head mask. You could just imagine it because he won't face the camera. So, you know, just picture that in your head. Look, every time I try to do this. There's a Swiss chocolate that Avery drew. There we go. And he's looking at the camera. We got him. We got him. All right. Luigi. I can't keep Luigi forever. Somebody got to buy Luigi. Blucifer. Yeah, I'd probably keep Blucifer. You know, I don't see why. Yeah, I'm probably not going to sell Blucifer. You know, that's like kind of feel like how it happens. Like, you know, I've had a snake, I like the snake, and then you know, it comes up to discussion, like, you know, where I'm looking at Brian, I'm like, well, I want to keep this one. You know, I had that one female that I had for 17 years. You know what? I never gave her a name. I just had her. I'd always refer to her as my light phase female, and she was very defensive, but she was such a great snake. Body structure wise, she was muscular. She's always really defensive. As soon as I picked her up, though, she'd always calm down, and she was a really cool snake. And I had my original lemon ghost male for a very long time. Along with one of his first offspring. You know, so, you know, I don't do it with like hundreds of hognose. I mean, that would be, you know, I feel like I don't know, like, it's just not me, I guess. How old is what's his name? Can you be more specific? Who's that? How old is String Cheese? String Cheese is like 5. All right. 17 years with no name. Well, I always refer to her as my light phase female, you know, and so like I didn't really have to have a name for her. I just always thought of her as like I liked her a lot. I was never selling her. That's the thing too. It's like I never named her, but I did like her. I kind of say this seems like a little sad, but I always like really liked that female. The Swiss Army knife. All right, Swiss Army knife. This guy's about 7 months old. And he's on large pinky mice. He's got that nice gold green background. He's actually got a little more pigment now. They tell a story about how terrible rats are for them and how you raised that one female and she was healthy for. That was a female that died. She was 17 when she passed away, Brandon. She was and she was raised on rats. That female was raised on rats. And my dad, that female was so cool because like I seen her at the show, and she was like my third or fourth. No, she was like my 4th or 5th hognose I ever got. I think like my 5th. And anyway, I wanted to buy her, and I was just like barely around my budget. And so I was thinking about it for whatever reason. I was 12 or 13 at the time when I bought her. She may have even been like, she was like my 5th or 6th hognose. And my dad bought her for me, and he didn't tell me until like the car ride home, and I was all upset. I thought somebody bought the female I'd wanted. Yeah, it's a very long time, 17 years. And then my original lemon ghost male, I had him for a long time. I want to say I had him for like 12 or 14 years. When I got him, he was like a beat up looking adult, and he was already probably like 5, 6, 7 years old. Yeah, and she was raised like half her diet was rats. I mean, I was young, so, you know, I wasn't really. I'm sure pieds have existed in the wild, but it's all means of finding them. All right. Let's get Luigi out. So there's Swiss Army knife. Very nice hognose. Very curious dude. His head pattern's really cool. Oh, that's somebody. My mom's starting to work on the geckos. She's going through a bunch of bins right now. All right, and this is Luigi. He is still looking for a home. So I'll put him back on Morph Market, and his new ID is going to be Luigi. And he's a Super Arctic Anaconda, 66% pos double het coral. Yeah, he's on the move right now, but he's got really cool pattern. Look at that nice stripe on his back. Have you produced any Super Arctic Mai Tai? Yeah, I have. I have Super Arctic Mai Tai, Super Arctic Conda Mai Tai, and then Super Mai Tai too. Yeah, and everything echoes in here, so that probably is louder than it sounds. Yeah, the Sub-Zeros are really pretty. They're like some of the pinkest hognose you can get. Like Sub-Zeros, Bub's Daddies, and then, of course, any of the Super Arctic Sunburst stuff is extremely pink. That's the thing too. Hognose are they're really fun species just to handle. They make such great pets. Even the defensive ones, I like some people are like, oh, these ones they're easy to handle. Even the defensive ones kind of calm down. You know, they might hiss and thrash a bit, and sometimes they'll calm down and then they'll thrash. You know, sometimes they'll just give you like they'll get a little defensive and then they'll become complacent again. But even the defensive ones, I feel like every hognose is like great for handling. You have so many that are like this. That's why I tell people at the shows. I'm like, well, it's no wonder that these things are like such a popular pet. I mean, look at the size of them, their facial structure, their features, and you know, just as a snake themselves, I mean, they're just really good. Are cool and aberrant patterns hereditary or totally random? Well, you know, there's an aspect of hereditary to like the majority of them, unless it's like some type of like anomaly, like a paradoxin, like a leucistic or something like that. Come back, handle blackbeak. Next time I'm back, I'll handle blackbeak, and I'll be like, this snake is great for handling. You'll have me saying that like he might be defensive at first. I know you had to run him underwater, but I don't know. He looks like a little ferret, long and slinky. That's Luigi, Super Arctic Anaconda, positive black coral. He actually is available. Danielle was going to get him, but she got Luigist instead. And so that makes Luigi still available here. And that's fine. Somebody's gonna want this guy because he is a very special snake. Actually, you should have bought him instead of Blackbeak, because Blackbeak sounds like he is a pretty defensive snake. But I'm going to come back. I love hognoses that have a solid black roster scale. It's my fave. Oh, yeah, Blackbeak does have that. Yeah, so, you know. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know. Like, you know, people like when, like, shine shoes, it's like black and shiny. It just reminds me of that. All right. Tro is fantastic to handle. But yeah, anyway, certain things like are cool in bearing pairs. Like tiger stuff can sometimes not be. It's like not that controllable unless it's selectively line bred really well. Tiger seems to be one that's like a little erratic and hard to control. Meanwhile, well-developed womas are very easy to control. My color blast male is becoming less spicy. Good, Gabby. So is that through more frequent handling then? Thanks for coming to Salt Lake City. Natalie and I love our new Super Arctic girls. Give us a rating on a Salt Lake food scene. Give us a rating on a Salt Lake food scene. Yeah, thanks, John, for coming out. And thanks for getting those girls. A rating on Salt Lake food scene. Well, I went to that Korean barbecue, and I would have gave that place like a 7.9. Dale, the Hogfather, brought these sandwiches from this Thai place. Those sandwiches were very good. I did rate them on my stories. They were like a high 7 too. They had pickled vegetables on them, and the bread was very good. I'd even say they're probably like a low 8. I think it's like 8.2 I gave it. So yeah, sometimes like it's mostly me. Like if he's kind of holding him like a clown there. But see, now we're back. Now we're back to holding him like a normal person. And look, he's doing very nice. And he's just kind of like in explore mode right now, so he's like kind of just like cruising about. What goes into your color blast line? Well, color blast line is purple line, extreme red line, and my own lineage of red. But what makes them different is it's a culmination of my best ones that have red coming up in their background. They were just higher, more red intensity animals that would get purple between their scales on their saddles, and the background on them had a ton of pigmentation. So these were like the best of the best, and they started looking different from my other lineage red albinos, and so I kind of branched them off into a separate project for these ones with higher red saturation, purple between the scales, and high red background. Can you show us a large female next? Maybe I could just justify a sub deer if I get a female. Yeah, good night, Gabriel. Thanks for joining. Oh, what did Avery said? Avery said something funny. She's laugh reacting. What did Avery say? All right. Well, let me put Luigi down. He's kind of just like hanging. Oh, she's playing Zelda. Let me see about like a really big female, because I have these ones that were just out of cooldown. Oh, she's still up. I see. Now, this is a Bub's daddy girl, and she laid one of my, actually, she laid the biggest clutch I've ever gotten from a hog. She laid 29 eggs. Now, I've heard of 30 egg clutches, of course, before, but this is the biggest I ever got was 29 eggs in one single clutch. And she's very long. And she's a very nice snake. She's probably about, she's really not like super huge. She's probably about 30, 31 inches. Now, she's not a real pink one, though. Even for, like, a Bub's daddy, she's, like, underwhelmingly pink. She's produced insanely pink offspring, though. But, you know, that's just the way she is, because Super Arctic is a bit random. And so she is a little pink, but she's a very soft-colored Bub's daddy. And you can see her next to my torso. I can hold her way out to make her look super huge. Like a fish. Yeah, but here's the thing, dude. She's actually a good example of like, this is geez, this female's 5 years old. Yeah, she's a 5-year-old girl. So this girl is 5 years old, okay? And, you know, you can see she's big. Like, again, like I say, like, I don't like to get Hognose real big, but she's not, like, I bet she's in the, like, right at, like, high 300-gram range. You know, she's empty, out of cool down. Not, like, you know, she's not gravid. She's probably close to 400 grams. But notice her body isn't real. She's not super. She's lean. She's nice and muscular. But if you look down near her tail, you know, she's not like fat, but she doesn't look skinny. She's just very long. And that's like a really good, healthy weight. Nice and muscular. Is 18 by 36. I think that's good for a female. I mean, you got a little, like, you know, your females, like, I had one that I got from somebody else. I didn't get her this big. I got a 37-inch Hognose one time. And I got her when I was like 15 or 16. I think I was 16. And it was this overfed giant female. Take all your pics like fishing pics. Yeah, I'll have like my Hognose super far out, making them look ultra huge. But that's the thing. This female's like she's not like a super food aggressive girl, but like even like really aggressive females, once they kind of get to this larger size and everything, a lot of times like they actually mellow out. And like a lot of these big girls, once they have their weight back and they're not like in breeding season and they're not like super like, you know, rambunctious for food because their metabolisms are kind of slowed back down, they don't really try to like chew on me that much. I mean, I shouldn't say I do have a couple that are like that still, I guess. All right. Yeah, call her super. Well, this is a Bubs daddy, but yeah, it is funny to call. Somebody asked me that. Like, shouldn't you call those mommies, Bubs mommies and super mommies? What is the shedding issue you are referring to? Flaky skin or sloughing the skin? Okay, with the pink pastels. The first clutches I had one clutch where the shed would just like their skin would get like loose, like, well, they'd go through a shed cycle and then the shed like wouldn't come off. And if it did, the scales underneath were like still raw. And I had like 3 like that, and they were all visual PPAs. And it was from one individual clutch. And, you know, I had seen that one time before, and it was actually in my first lavender clutch ever produced. Ever since, I've never seen that again in lavenders. I never heard of anybody else. But, you know, pink pastels, I had that issue. It's 3 of them. And, yeah, I believe it's 3. And, you know, I kind of was like, this is too much of a coincidence. That has to do with the PPA gene. And so I bred more again this year, or this past season. And I'm like, if this happens again, or I see any issues like this, I was like, I'm calling it. And I was like, I'm going to post it. I was like, I'm done. But then this year, nothing happened. They were all really, really good. And I hatched this, like this year, I don't remember how many, but I know with last year and this year combined, I've produced probably about close to 50 visual PPAs, somewhere between 40 and 50. You know, I should count so I have an accurate number, but I never really actually counted. Like there I had 4, 7, and then I know I had like 3 10. So I'd probably more around 40. It's probably more around 40. Yeah, and see what a great snake. Oh yeah, Anthony's got a really nice Sub-Zero for me. Oh yeah, and thanks Hogs on the Horizon. Thanks for joining and contributing. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's Mother's Day weekend too. So happy Mother's Day. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to do something special for my mom. Although my mom always asks, you don't have to do anything except for like she helps take care of the geckos. She wouldn't want to take care of the geckos for Mother's Day, and that's makes a lot of sense. Just seen a snake shed that way. Made sure I never got into the project. Yeah, Brandon was here when I had some of them, and I'd put them in cups and basically put them in like you know, on paper towels. The only time I'd keep them on paper towels, and keep them moist to try to keep them hydrated. I put ointment on them, and these things just wouldn't. And like the ones that did shed completely, and the scales are kind of raw, and they started doing better. What would happen is they go into shed again, and the same thing would repeat. And I've heard of other snake species, like people having stuff like that. So you know, I kind of thought it was something like hereditary with pink pastel because I've heard of issues with pink pastels in the past. But you know, most of the issues I heard were like equilibrium issues, which I haven't experienced or seen that. But again, like this year, no problems. Actually, I did more inbreeding or more. They were actually more related to ones I bred this season, and it kind of was a bit of it. I was like, if there's something wrong is going to pop up here. And I was like, and I'll post about it. Like, hey, listen. But then you always got something like, well, my pink pastels don't do that. It's like my pink pastels are from everybody else's, you know, lines. Mine are very outcrossed. You know, I got ones from Europe and I got ones from, you know, just established bloodlines in the United States. And I'd say, but my PPAs this year were like perfect. No short tails, no equilibrium issues, no shedding issues, no anatomical characteristics that were bad, no short faces, no bug eyes, nothing. They actually look really, really good. So that kind of like, I was of course happy about that, but at the same time, like, well, I'm going to keep back a few more, and I'm going to do other projects. And as long as everything keeps going well, I'll continue with the project and keep people updated about it. Okay. Well, I've been going at this for about 2.5 hours. I think I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to put this big girl back. Thanks for everybody joining. I'm going to drink more water. Crystal made a bunch of these really good tacos. I ate a bunch of them before I started this. And I think that sodium and all the food caught up with me. This room's hot as hell, too. So thanks, everybody, for joining. It was a really fun conversation. Love talking about everything, especially near the end as we started joking around a lot more and being more light with the convo. And, yeah, thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Avery. Thanks, Pale Scales. Thanks, Anthony. Hogs on the Horizon. Trinity, thanks for calling me a brat. And I'll tell Kevin what you said about him, too. Thanks, Fairly Hog Parents. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody joining. Gabby. The other people. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks, Leviathan.